Om Ajnanatimidandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Dhena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Let's look at the verse again. You all like this verse a lot, I could tell. It says, just as aquatics always desire to remain in the vast mass of water, all conditioned living entities naturally desire to remain in the vast existence of the Supreme Lord. Therefore, if someone very great by material calculations fails to take shelter of the Supreme Lord, but instead becomes attached to material household life, his greatness is like that of a young low-class couple. One who is too attached to material life loses all good spiritual qualities. Actually, could I have the book, please? And so, this low-class enjoyment of the material world is the natural default of those who don't have the help of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Because material nature has two potencies. One is to throw and the other is to cover. And the throwing potency is one which keeps one away from the Lord and his internal energy when one becomes averse to the Lord. And then one becomes covered over by the material energy and thinks that the lower standard of material life and so-called pleasure of the material world is actually a high standard, and exalts himself and others who also enjoy that kind of pleasure. People glorify the connoisseurs of the lower energy of the material world. The example given here is a young low-class couple, and they exalt each other's beauty and think, oh, we're so lucky and we're the only ones. And there's all kinds of stimulation from the material nature in that situation in which one thinks oneself to be above it all. In fact, there are many songs and poems about people who are overwhelmed by the external feature, especially when a low-class couple comes together. And when we say low-class, it means that they're thinking that together they can conquer the material nature and become happy. A high-class couple would be thinking that we'll work together in Krishna consciousness and please the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So the reason that Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur quoted this verse in his commentary of Chaitanya Bhagavat is because he mentions the way in which he sent out, in fact the text mentions, and then he comments on it, how Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu sent Lord Nityananda and Haridas Thakur together to go out into Navadvip to teach people something very specific. Bolo Krishna, Bhajo Krishna, Koro Krishna Shiksha. So these three things, just go tell everybody. Tell everyone to chant and tell them these three things. Bolo Krishna, chant Hare Krishna. Bhajo Krishna, worship Krishna. Koro Krishna Shiksha. Take instruction from Krishna. And as Haridas Thakur and Lord Nityananda went door to door, they met different kinds of people. Some people very pious, and when they saw, and they were both dressed as sannyasis when they went out. And when people who were very pious saw them, they would invite them in to take something. But Haridas Thakur and Lord Nityananda wouldn't take anything. They said, we've only come here to beg you to do these three things. And of course, Mahaprabhu is the one who ordered them to do it. And the devotees, when they heard the order of Mahaprabhu, that all of his devotees should go out and beg people to do these three things, and they laughed. And the reason they laughed was they said, who can deny the order of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu? Later when Nityananda and Haridas Thakur were talking as they were going around town. They were saying, although he's the best of Brahmanas, born in a Brahmin family, he's acting just like a king. He's giving this order and saying, everybody go out. And the other part of it was that Lord Chaitanya said that after you go out, then come back at the end of the day and report to me what has happened. So they would meet some people that would say, you come in and you take something, and they wouldn't take anything. They just said, we only came here to beg you these 3 things. Nothing more. We don't want anything else. And then some people who had been denied access to the nocturnal kirtan at Srivasangam, when they saw these followers of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, they began to scream at them and threaten them, chase them away, because they were angry. And so Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur says that when one goes out to teach Lord Chaitanya's message and to beg people to take to Krishna consciousness, then you'll find that people react in different ways according to their predisposition, their disposition. And he also says that when Mahaprabhu picked specifically Nityananda and Haridas Thakur, he was being sensitive to the makeup of Navadvip. He said there were a lot of Muslims there, and there were a lot of Hindus also. So he picked a team of both a Muslim and a Hindu, so-called, to go out together. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta mentions this. He said this was the genius of Mahaprabhu. In order to spread Krishna consciousness, he sent out those who were representative of the various kinds of people in town so they could relate to it. And you can see that Mahaprabhu's great order and his vision for the world, that his message, the simple message, Bolo Krishna, Bhajo Krishna, Koro Krishna, Shiksha, should be executed somehow or other. One should figure out how to do this and accommodate the people so that they can take it. And then Srila Bhaktisiddhanta goes on to tell how profound are these 3 items. First, Bolo Krishna. There's a lot behind this statement, chant Hare Krishna, he says. He says that just by using one's tongue to chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, to utter the names of God, then not only is one's own existence purified, but one can purify one's family and the whole world by uttering the names of Hare Krishna and repeating the names of God. So this may sound like too simple of a solution for the world's problems or for one's own problem, but this is the panacea for the entire world that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave. And then he says, Bhajo Krishna, worship Krishna, and Koro Krishna Shiksha, take Krishna's instructions. And Srila Bhaktisiddhanta quotes this verse because he mentions that it's not easy to get people to take these things, because their tendency is to take shelter of the material energy. And they think it's not only okay, but it's a good idea. It seems like a much better idea than taking to spiritual life. And it requires the teachers who go out to execute the order of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to give this to everyone, to, as Prabhupada said, tax their brains. You have to think about it very carefully and plan and strategize for how to present Krishna consciousness to people who are absorbed in the material energy so that they'll feel compelled to take Krishna consciousness and be able to come out of it. And this is because people are very much attached and feel themselves at home in the material nature, even though they're being beaten by Maya, kicked again and again. That they don't understand that this is not their real home. So we'll look at the purport again. Prabhupada writes, although crocodiles are very fierce animals, they are powerless when they venture out of the water onto land. When they are out of the water, they cannot exhibit their original power. Similarly, the all-pervading Supersoul Paramatma is the source of all living entities, and all living entities are part and parcel of Him. When the living entity remains in contact with the all-pervading Vasudeva, the personality of Godhead, he manifests his spiritual power exactly as a crocodile exhibits its strength in the water. In other words, the greatness of the living entity can be perceived when he is in the spiritual world engaged in spiritual activities. So this is the science of Krishna consciousness, and that is to remain in contact always with Krishna. And as one learns to be connected to Krishna, then others can see the spiritual power, and one can feel it for oneself. This is mentioned in the progression of verses of the Divinity and Divine Service, where a steady improvement of one's spiritual health is noted as one continues to hear and chant about Krishna. And when we teach Krishna consciousness to others, and we organize ourselves in such a way that they can come regularly in touch with Krishna consciousness, then we can observe how their spiritual health improves naturally. But it's part of the science, isn't it, that by proximity to Krishna consciousness we flourish. But as soon as we move a little bit away, then we can become captured by the material energy, and we can lose our spiritual power. I was thinking also just recently how this instruction, Bolo Krishna, Bhajo Krishna, Koro Krishna Shiksha. Krishna Shiksha. There is no other valuable instruction in the world except for Krishna's instruction and the instruction of those who are repeating Krishna's instruction. Because other than that, nobody really knows anything or what's going on. I've been observing it myself recently, for instance, like people in the field of medicine. What do they really know ultimately? Of course, Prahlad Maharaj, Balaseneha Sharanam Pitaro Nashringha, he says that Nartasya Chaganamudanbati Majatono. If you go to the doctor and you say, I'm sick, can you cure me? What will the doctor say? We'll give it a try. And most of the time they don't really know what's going on. They're just guessing. And for the person who's taking medicine, they really don't know if it's working or not. Because what happens is either you get better anyway, and you would have got better without the medicine, or people give you several opinions. Like every doctor will have a different opinion and say, take this, take that. And not only that, everybody in the world's a doctor. Because when they see that you're sick, they'll say, oh, I know how to cure that. You just take this. And, my grandmother, she used to take this, her wrinkles fell off, and, and then you meet somebody from China, and they say, no, you got to take herbs, and, there's hot water, and you got to wear socks, and you just do everything. And then somehow or other, by Krishna's mercy, you get better, and then you have no idea how you got better, because it came at you from every different angle. And neither does the doctor know, ultimately. I mean, they try their best, they make educated guesses, they measure things, and there's some statistics, but even within those statistics, for instance, there's the placebo effect, because it's proved fact that if you give people a sugar pill or a pill with no apparent medicinal value in a double-blind study, many of those people, just because they believe they're taking medicine, they'll get better. That's called placebo. And so there are many factors in the material energy that are confusing to a tiny living entity. It's easily overwhelmed. And in law, you'll find the same thing. People have many different opinions. And there's statement from the Bhagavatam that all the great munis, they all have different opinions about the purpose of life and the absolute truth. So you can only trust Krishna. You have to go right to Krishna Shiksha and trust Bhagavad Gita and understand that only Krishna's words are powerful, because as he says in the 15th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, how does the verse go? Aksharo atitoham, aksharo. Give me. Can I have Gita? Give me the Gita. 15th chapter. Tasmat sharamatitoham aksharam apichotama apasmi lokavedecha pratita purushottama. He's describing the fallible and infallible, and he says, only I'm infallible. Everybody else, they're so-called infallible if they're in the spiritual world. And then they're in the material world, they're definitely fallible. So, Dvavimau Purusho Loke, 16, Sharas Chakshara Evacha, Sharas Sarvani Bhutani, Kutasto Shara Uchite. There are two classes of beings, the fallible and the infallible. In the material world, every living entity is fallible, and in the spiritual world, every living entity is called infallible. Besides these two, there is the greatest living personality, the Supreme Soul, the imperishable Lord Himself, who has entered the three worlds and is maintaining them. Because I am transcendental, beyond both the fallible and the infallible, and because I am the greatest, I am celebrated both in the world and in the Vedas as that Supreme Person. Clear case. Krishna is the infallible, and everybody else is either infallible or either fallible or called infallible. But Krishna's above even the fallible and the infallible. He's in the Turiya, in the fourth position. And not only that, he's omniscient. Krishna's omniscience is not meant to restrict our freedoms, because sometimes say, well, if God's omniscient, how do I have free will? And the fact is that just as in the same way that we view our past, Krishna views our future. We look at our past and we say, well, I can't do anything about it. And Krishna sees our future and he doesn't do anything about it. Samoham sarvabhuteshu nami dveshosti napriyas. And he doesn't get involved with our free will. The point that he's omniscient is that we should trust him because he knows what's going to happen. Vedaham samatitani vartamani anicharjuna bhavishani chabhutani mam tu veda nakashana. Don't you want to meet somebody who knows everything, who actually knows everything? I'm so tired of meeting people who think they know everything, or try to pretend like they know, or even they know something. It's like, you don't know anything. Unless you're repeating what Krishna says, or you're representative of Krishna in that way, then you can help. Otherwise, you're not the friend. Krishna's the friend. Bhoktaram jagatapasam sarvaloka maheshwaram suridam sarvabhutanam gyatvam shandamrichiti. And the people try to present, I'm the friend, I'll help everybody, I'll help you, I'll help the world. But nobody can do that. Only Krishna can. Suridam sarvabhutanam. He's the friend of all living entities. Because he's omniscient, he knows everything, he's infallible. So Krishna Shiksha, that's the most valuable thing in this world, to get instruction from Krishna. And the example that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu set, it's for all of us. And that is that he gave an order. When he gave that order in that assembly, all the devotees, being around a spiritual personality is always exciting because you don't know what's going to happen next. Because once they give an order, for those who are surrendered in that circle, they've given their lives. And even if they haven't fully given their lives, there's a lot of social pressure, because then they'll say, well, other people are surrendering, so I better go along and surrender also, which isn't a bad thing. It's just they don't have full realization yet. But the fact is, when a spiritual personality is giving Krishna Shiksha and gives an order, then there's a shockwave that goes through the universe. And that happened to the followers of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu when he said, it was a new thing. He said, go door to door and teach this to everybody. Go everywhere, teach it to everybody. And they started laughing because it seemed like a kind of a sort of like dangerous thing to do. We may take it for granted, partly because we live in California. But if you lived in China, or if you lived in a Muslim-ruled country the way they did at the time, it's kind of like, we're going to go out door to door. And then they laughed because they said, who can deny the order of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu? He gave the order. Now it's there for all time. It's holding forth in the atmosphere, and anybody can take it. And what are the three things? Bolo Krishna, Bhajo Krishna, Koro Krishna Shiksha. And this simplifies one's life. And you may think this is too simple, but each one of these is as deep as the ocean. One can study this science of chanting Hare Krishna, or of worshiping Krishna, or of taking Krishna's shiksha. And if you just take these three things and remember that Krishna is infallible, and make it your livelihood, your life and soul, to practice these three things, and then to give them to as many people as possible. Then you'll have the perfection of life by the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, because he's performing the Acharya Lila. And that is that Krishna, as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, spoke the Bhagavad Gita, but Chaitanya Mahaprabhu then came as a devotee, even though he's Krishna himself, and he showed by example how to follow the Bhagavad Gita, and of course the Srimad Bhagavatam. And he's Krishna himself, and what he says is infallible also. And he's very relatable, because he's showing as a devotee how to live one's life. One can take the example of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and apply it in one's own life. So these are the three ways to stay close to Krishna and be spiritually enlivened. And if anybody ever finds themselves feeling morose or disconnected, then if you chant Hare Krishna sincerely, or you worship Krishna, and it may seem difficult to worship Krishna, but it's not, because all you have to do is bow down if you bow your head, which is a pretty radical thing to do, because people don't like that in the material world. I saw recently there was, maybe it was in England or something, because they're very ecumenical there. They had at some school, there was some Muslims showing how they do their prayer. It was a regular school. It wasn't Muslim kids. But they put down some prayer mats so they could try it too. And there was a big uproar here in America. A lot of people said, oh, don't let them bow down like that. That's horrible. It's kind of a scary thing for those who are absorbed in the material energy and trying to maintain their independence, that when they see somebody bowing down, it becomes anathema. But it's the simplest of things. Someone just bows down to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Even Karabhajana Muni says, if you worship Krishna's lotus feet and just by bowing down to him, then you get the result of going to all the holy places. If you're in the holy Dham, like Mayapur, the Navadvip Dham Mahatmya says that if you get there and you're just really tired or lazy, and all you do is sleep while you're there, you just skip the yatra, and don't go to any programs, you just sleep. You get credit because at least you're laying prostrate, and so the Lord takes it. Oh, he's bowing down to me. It's a 24-hour dandavat. What to speak of if you actually just put your heart into it and just put your head on the ground and think, I'm just a servant. This is such a satisfying thing that one can do. People are hankering for this, but they're not learning how to do it. They don't learn how to do it, and nobody's encouraging them to do it. Also, in fact, people are discouraging people from bowing down to the Supreme. The fact is, they don't even know who the Supreme is. And most people don't even want to know, because it's a little scary, because it means that then now I have somebody to bow down to. It sounds repulsive, actually. Why would I bow to anybody? And this is all the philosophies of the world. So with Bolo Krishna, Bhajo Krishna, Koro Krishna, Shiksha, this is like a war. And these are our weapons that we take out into the world where everyone is enveloped by the material energy, completely surrounded. And not only are they surrounded, but they're comfy. They're thinking, this is good, I like it. Is have a look at this. No thanks, I'm fine. And therefore, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's devotees who went out, Haridas Thakur and Lord Nityananda, they were berated by others. Some people chased them away. And as we know, when they went to meet Jagai Madai, they were chased away. I read recently how Jagai Madai were actually good candidates, because although they were completely sinful, they didn't blaspheme devotees. This is a very interesting point also, that in the teachings of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, in the context of his sending the devotees out, as is mentioned in the Chaitanya Bhagavat, that even though Jagai Madai had become so overcome by passion and ignorance, they were from Brahmin families, they were acting like complete debauchees. Not acting like, they were. They would fight with each other in the street, they would beat up others, and they did horrible things to other people. But it's mentioned specifically because they were associating mostly with debauchees. They didn't know any Vaishnavas, and they weren't hanging out with them, so they didn't make any offenses. So that made it better for them when Lord Nityananda and Haridas Thakur approached them. But they did consider it. When they saw them, they thought, oh, maybe we should try these people, because if we can convert them, then it will really be good for Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's movement. So they went to talk to them. Chaitanya Bhagavat describes how Jagai Madai were really fat. They were really fat, but they were fast. So when Haridas Thakur and Lord Nityananda approached them, actually Lord Nityananda said to them, you should chant Hare Krishna. We're coming here from our master to give you these orders. Bolo Krishna, Bhajo Krishna, Koro Krishna, Shiksha. And they became indignant and started chasing after Haridas Thakur and Lord Nityananda. They were chasing him through the streets of Navadvip. And the author describes how although they were very fat, that is Jagai Madai, they were fast and they were keeping up. And so Nityananda and Haridas Thakur had to really run fast, and for a long time. And as they were running, they were discussing their fate. They were saying that we've been sent out here by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. We could die like this out here, taking this instruction. And fortunately, they got away. But Lord Nityananda then was determined to go back and give them this order of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And very confident, because it came from Mahaprabhu, they would simply present what they had been given. And this is the power of spiritual life. And, understand that I'm a conditioned soul, and then represent what Lord Chaitanya and Lord Krishna has given, and just depend on their power, not on one's own power. This was the way that Prabhupada described his success in spreading Krishna consciousness, and gave the formula for anyone else to be successful, which was don't concoct anything. Follow the teaching that's been given to you and present it faithfully so that others can understand it, and take it up also. And don't think you're doing it. Take it as the power that's coming through the order of Krishna and Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And we've seen often in the Sankirtan movement how even with an insignificant start, what seems to be insignificant, ends up to be highly significant. If you keep on presenting the Bolo Krishna, Bhajo Krishna, Koro Krishna Shiksha again and again, and studying it deeply and taking it for yourself, those who go out into the world and present the philosophy of Krishna consciousness, because of the contrast and because of the fact that they're getting wisdom, they can see the contrast, that although there's a very elaborate plan within modern civilization to enjoy to the utmost, there are several observations we can make. One of them is that nobody's really enjoying because of the influence of the lower modes of nature. It ruins everything. This is very much like sand in sweet rice. You might have a nice preparation like sweet rice, but if you put even a little bit of sand in it, it ruins it, doesn't it? I hate sand in stuff. Let's speak of a hair. Did you ever get a hair in something? It's like, practically, if I get a hair in something, I won't even eat that preparation again in my life. And so material life is like hair or sand in the nicest preparation you can imagine. And it's like, okay, forget it. Not only won't I eat this, but I won't eat anything that looks like it again. Of course, if it's prasadam, we don't care. But the fact is that the material life is tainted because of the lower modes of material nature. And although one may make elaborate plans for enjoyment, Prahlad Maharaj points out it becomes bharam, it becomes a huge burden to keep it up. And then there's no actual happiness there. Everyone simply struggles hard. So when the devotees go out into the world, for instance, door to door, or they meet people at their places of work, and they teach these three simple things that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu told to Haridas Thakur and Nityananda. He said just these three things. Then they see for themselves that the whole material strategy, the whole setup is a ruse. You know what a ruse is? Look it up. It's a ruse. It's a big fake out. There is no actual happiness out there. And there is no common sense even at all. Everyone's assuming that they know what's going on, but they don't know anything. They don't even see that the one person is changing bodies. Krishna says in the 8th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, unless somebody's eyes are trained in knowledge, they can't understand what's happening when somebody leaves their body. They just become surprised, like, they died? How could they die? And where'd they go? It's complete, not only ignorance, but madness. What is a ruse? What do you got there? Shraddha, you got it? Could we have a microphone here?
Ruse or ruse, an action intended...
Spell it.
Sorry, Pat?
Could you spell it?
R-U-S-E.
R-U-S-E. Spells?
Ruse. And ruse
Okay.
or rouge also. An action...
If you're French, you can say rouge. Rouge. Okay, go ahead.
An action intending to deceive someone, a trick.
It's a trick. It's trickery.
It comes from late Middle English and was used as a hunting term from Old French, from ruser, which means use trickery.
That's it?
Yeah, also from Latin, which means rarsas, which means backwards.
Backwards. That fits. So it's a ruse. And this is observable for those who follow in the footsteps of Haridas Thakur and Lord Nityananda, and just take Lord Chaitanya's order out and present it to others. Interesting also that until one actually goes deeply within these three practices, chanting Hare Krishna, worshipping Krishna, and studying his teachings, and taking them out and giving them to others. because that's part of his order. It's very difficult to understand that the material world is a ruse. One may think that, well, actually there's something to it. Maybe it's me that's unsophisticated, and that maybe I'm at fault. Because just look at how people have built cars and spaceships and, I mean, there's a lot of things going on out there, skyscrapers and things like that. And I live in an insignificant little hut. But actually the real case is that those who engage in these three activities and keep them as the focus of their life, they're the real intelligent ones. They're the ones who actually understand what the purpose of life is and who are unbewildered just by taking these three themselves and giving them to others. This is the sublimity of Lord Chaitanya's movement. And another observation about materialistic life is that it is unabated exploitation. Unabated. There is no holding back because the fact they have nowhere else to go. They're fully absorbed in enveloped in the material energy, and therefore their idea of happiness is to exploit material nature as fully as possible. And that's where we get all these cars from. I mean, if you really think about it, it's insanity to have one huge chunk of metal that spews out gas and everything like that. And you have to pump out thousands of gallons from the ground in order to produce one car so one person can drive down to the store and back. But it is in line with the overall plan to unabatedly exploit the material nature as much as possible. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's plan is not to exploit material nature, but to use everything in the service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And that's parallel with Lord Krishna's teaching, that Bhoktaram Jagatapasam, Sarvaloka Maheshwaram. Consider that everything belongs to me and use everything in my service. Now we'll take a few reflections. Navina Prabhu, and if you'll just pass him the mic there.
Hare Krishna.
We'd like to welcome back Navina Nirada Prabhu.
Haribol. Thank you. So, I like the choice of, I like everything, but I especially like the choice of words, ruse. It's a hunting device. It's a contraption where animals can get in, but they can't get out. It's made in such a way. It's very... And in the same way, the material world, it seems like a very tempting place to be. And as soon as the living entity wants to get out, then they see how much stuck they are with all their conceptions and attachments. And anybody who says so, that they should go the other way and swim against the current, there's many who will advise against it. Don't bow down, don't become too spiritual, don't let go of your attachments. So I like that point.
Yeah, thank you. That reminded me as well, as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in his Acharya Leela, he taught his sannyasis, especially his sannyasis, he was showing how careful they should be in their interaction between men and women. Because we know the story of Junior Haridas, and he went to beg some rice, and the woman that he begged from was elderly, and she was one of the intimate associates of the Lord. But to set an example, how deceiving, how much of a ruse the material energy is, that if you get in, you can't get back out again. he set the very strict standards for his devotees. And he also taught by example in his own life how to not get entangled in the material world. And this is an important aspect of his teachings and the overall scheme of spiritual life as presented to us through the Bhagavad Gita and the Vedic culture, which is to be careful not to mix unrestrictedly with the material energy. Very specifically, in the Bhagavatam, Lord Rishabhadev says, Pumsa striya maitini bhavamitam tayom hridam hridaya grantamahu, that the root cause of the material life is the mixing of the male and female, and then they become really attached. And then they become caught in the ruse, where it's like you got to work really hard to maintain, and so forth. So the Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's, most of his disciples were householders, but they were also dignified and careful, so that they didn't become captured by the material nature. At least they wouldn't become captured, because they're eternally liberated living entities, but they set the example for others. And this is an aspect of the spiritual plan Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave that is not well known in the material world. Everyone has unabated access to the material energy these days, and it's not satisfying, but it's entangling. So the context of our Vedic culture and the way in which one keeps chaste consciousness by not allowing oneself to mix with the material energy, wherever one may be, is an important aspect of our spiritual practice, because we are walking here, there, and everywhere within the world, either for our professions or for our preaching. And while we are, it's important to remember how sticky the material world is and not become recaptured by the material energy. This is something that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu showed through his personal example in his life and his followers. Other reflections, yes?
I liked your comment where you said that the most valuable thing in this world is to learn from Krishna, get siksha
to learn from Krishna.
Siksha from Krishna, and I was just extending that and thinking that if you learn from other sources, it's not 100% accurate, could be wrong also. Like I was reading a book on how to think big, and so I just read a few pages from that, and it was all about how you can do it and you are in control and things like that. And I was contrasting that to how Krishna tells Arjun that tasmat sarvesu kaleshu mam anusmara. So you have to think about the Lord, but that piece was missing in that, the book. So
and there's also 5 factors to every action as well. It's a more precise idea. There's a karmavad and daivavad. Karmavad, you'll notice in a lot of self-help, people say all you have to do, if you just try hard enough and you focus on it, and you're able to keep your goal within your mind always, then you can attain anything. And then there's other people that just say, nothing's up to us, we can't do anything, it's all daiva. But there's a combination that Krishna presents within his teachings. Yes? And also, I've noticed that in many writings, books, there's thousands of books available. I start looking through, they have ideas about how to make your life better, how to improve yourself, and so forth. And so frequently I see the tangent that's presented there that this is a successful philosophy because it comes from evolution. The way it's presented is, the reason we have certain tendencies is because, when we were evolving, we were in the jungle gathering things, and this is our tendency. It's built into us through evolution. And then you can notice that the premise that they're starting with to come to the conclusions there is speculative, because that's a speculative philosophy. Yes.
Prabhu, you were just mentioning about the doctors. I mean, they know what they're trying. I mean, they're trying their best, but they don't know really what they do and how the medicine works. So, personal experience, I was just thinking that because of my health issue, I've been to doctors on and off, and I was just thinking recently, I started off with Ayurveda, and I think that, we all have to go back rather than think of the modern. I mean, I had this thought when I was growing that, allopathic is surely better, Ayurveda is not. Because this is very ancient and doesn't work for this modern way of life. That's what my thought was. But as the years go by, I have realized so much. As we were just talking to Shankran Prabhu, and he said one sentence which really was so true. He said, "I don't think there is any doctor who knows what he's doing as such in allopathy, because they're not looking at the cause. They're looking at symptom, and they're treating the symptoms all the time." And when you're looking at the cause and treating the cause, the problems that allopathic is not able to treat, Ayurveda is able to treat. So, which is personal experience from my side. So I was just wondering that, yes, I mean, going back to everything to Bhagavatam, I know Ayurveda, right? It's increasing your years, and you're getting it from the scripture.
Well, you can try that. But even the Ayurveda says, and Prabhupada quotes this in his purport, when you take Ayurvedic medicine, you have to say a mantra. And the mantra is, this stuff won't work unless Lord Vishnu empowers it. and you can meet all kinds of Ayurvedic doctors that really don't know what they're talking about. They're guessing also. It's an empowered thing. And of course, yes.
You can finish this thought, Prabhu. I was just...
Yeah, I better not keep going on that.
I like the fact where you said we should trust somebody who knows everything about us. Because in this world, we trust so many kinds of people at work, even in family and everything, but they know only a portion about us, that too probably some past. But as you said, Krishna knows even the future, everything. So, that actually adds an additional point to tell our mind that we should only trust Krishna.
Yeah, that's spiritual life. That's Shraddha. It means to develop faith in Krishna. Faith and trust doesn't happen automatically. It's not just a belief. It happens when one has a relationship. For instance, if you have a relationship with somebody and you notice that they always come through for you, even in the most adverse situations, like when you're setting up your festivals and things like that. I'm sure you have some people, like year after year after, they show up and they'll stay up all night too, and you've seen it so many times. And after a while you go like, yeah, that person, I trust them. It takes time to do that. And spiritual life takes time to develop trust in Krishna's instruction, his omniscience. But that's the foundation of spiritual life, because Krishna is omniscient. And because his instructions are infallible, once you feel comfortable in taking full shelter in them, then your life is actually sublime and protected. It's not blind faith either. It's well-reasoned faith through which one develops. Yes. 1, 2.
I like the point how you mentioned that, Prabhu, unless one worships, reads and distributes, chants, worships and reads about Krishna and distributes, we wouldn't even know that this is a ruse. Because I was just thinking, unless even the scientists thoroughly analyze, they can't discover a disease. They have to know about the disease. Or they have to know about what the thief will do to know that what theft he has done. So in order to even know about the spiritual, material world and come out of it, we have to have knowledge. Otherwise we won't have eyes to see what's wrong and what's right. So that's really startling, because we know that, but when you said that only when you do this you will know that something is bad for you, then that's an alarming thing.
Yeah, and I also meant it in the way that when we see the contrast, well, as one example, just a realization I've had going out to teach Krishna consciousness in various contexts. Some places, especially in the corporate world, you find that people have worked very hard to get where they are. They've, it takes a lot to get in there. To, for instance, I won't mention any names, but there's big corporations like really close here. If I had an avocado, I could throw it and hit it from here. And of course I wouldn't do that because I wouldn't waste an avocado. But like yesterday, we were going there to do a program. We did a program. And just as I was driving onto the campus, I had this, I noticed that the employees, who are very intelligent, very progressive people, but as they're walking around, they're very pensive. Like they're kind of concentrated, and there's a sense that they're... I had a sense I wasn't driving into Vaikuntha. That's one thing. Like Vaikuntha means there's no anxiety there. It's hard work. You have to think about completing a project, like some engineering project, some software engineering project. It's hard, isn't it? Yes. It's even hard. I mean, it's hard when we do it for things, but at least we know at the end it's for Krishna. At the end of some of these things that they're doing, there may not be that kind of spiritual satisfaction, although I'm sure there's some kind of satisfaction and there's payment and things like that. But it's still really hard, and I was thinking how they're really absorbed in thoughts, how to solve problems and everything like that. That's one thing, that they need some relief. And then I noticed in our classroom, we have regularly there, when people hear spiritual knowledge, even the most basics of spiritual knowledge, it's a huge revelation. Like I was downtown on a Tuesday, and I brought my Changing Bodies exhibit again, because it's so much fun carrying that around. I think I'd just walk around San Francisco like that, because everyone goes, what? The most frequent comment is, wow. That's what people say. So I was inside Salesforce, and I, checking in with my badge, and people, head turner, get on the elevator, and everybody on the elevator turns around. Can I get a picture? And that's like, wow, what is it? It's amazing just to see the changing bodies. And then my point is that although it's a place of, it's a collaboration between very highly qualified people, but they haven't heard about Bolo Krishna, Bhadra Krishna, Koro Krishna Shiksha. That's something they've missed. What to speak of, like some basic ideas about, how we're passing through this life and it's almost over. Better take it seriously. These kinds of things are not heard anywhere, not at any one of the classrooms there, unless somebody comes from the outside. And when we do it, we can see the contrast, and there's the ruse that my mind might present, which is that there's something out there that's actually satisfactory, the material world's not so bad after all, or something like that. When you present these valuable teachings of Krishna consciousness, and then you start to see how people are so hungry for them, and how nourished they feel when they hear even a fragment of it. We're used to changing bodies. You bring in a changing bodies exhibit in here, nobody will even look. It's like, yeah, cool. Yeah, but when you bring it out to people who don't have Bolo Krishna, Bhadra Krishna, Koro Krishna Shiksha, they freak out. They're like, what? You're kidding me? No way. They want to know more about it, and where does this Shiksha come from? Who's it coming from?
When you said that we get the Shiksha, in one of the purports, what Prabhupada gave me a big relief, because in one of the Chaitanya Charitamrita purports, Prabhupada was saying that your source of income is not your source of maintenance and happiness. So that gave me a great relief that we can do work, but that's not our source of maintenance. So you said that how software projects are difficult and everything, but just reading this sentence consoles me a lot. That
Very much so, yeah. And there are hundreds and thousands of statements like that in the Krishna Shiksha department. And it helps us sort things out. We were teaching about karma over the last couple days. And I think that's been the most, the topic that people respond to the most so far. Out of dozens of topics that we've presented, they really sit up for that one. So they really want to know, why are things happening to me? That's one thing. And how can I make things better in the future? And how did I get mixed up in this in the first place? And the knowledge is so comprehensive that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave. Nothing is like the Srimad Bhagavatam and like the Bhagavad Gita. There are other scriptures of the world, but they don't go into the details of these things. For instance, Narada Muni, in his teachings in the 5th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, 1st canto, tells how good things, just as bad things come unasked for, similarly good things come. Just that concept alone is fascinating for people and also extremely helpful to know that you don't have to work so hard for good things because they're going to come of their own accord because of past momentum. Yes. Oh, yes. You were next. And if you could bring me Antya Volume 2.
So, Maharaj, just continuing on with Rasika Shiromani Mataji's comment that we should have faith in Krishna. So we should also have faith in the spiritual master, because there is that verse, Yatha Deve. So when you have faith in both the Supreme Personality of Godhead and the spiritual master. So along that line, there is a comment on Facebook.
Okay.
And this is from Bhayahari Das.
Bhayahari, my old pal, Bhayahari. We used to chant Brahma Samhita together for Radha Govinda in New York. And then I was traveling by myself in South India one time and thinking, like, what am I doing here traveling all over South India by myself? And then I ran into Bhayahari down in some remote village in Kerala, and we traveled together all over South India. Bhayahari, Prabhu Ki Jai.
Yeah, gotta love the Vash. Vash and the deities. What more could I ask for? Hari Bol.
Okay. Krishna.
Maharaj, the second part you're telling about that teaching, that sharing the teachings with others. So yesterday some very senior executive was giving some talk, and then one person asked the question that how we can get the new talent in the group. Then he told, you are the best ambassador. Like he was pointing to all of us, like you get your friends there, that's what, like you became the ambassador of us, and that's what we get the best talent. I was thinking that's what they're just repeating the what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu told, that we are all the ambassador and of teaching, and then we can get the and on his behalf, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's behalf, the best people or devotees.
Yeah, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's marketing plan is the best. And it seems, he sent a couple devotees out. Just go out door to door. That was his plan, to start a worldwide movement and have this heard in every town and village. How are you going to start it? Go door to door. Just go start talking to people. And that's how it all started. And you can see that anyone can restart their own Hare Krishna movement if they just have these three things. That's all you need. You can go anywhere, no money in your pocket, but if you have Krishna's name, you have the ways and means to worship Krishna by bowing down, and you have Krishna Shiksha. That would be helpful. At least you know a little something. You can go to the far-flung place on the Earth planet or elsewhere, if you can get out of the atmosphere, and survive. You'll find that with these three things, you can restart the Hare Krishna movement anywhere just by doing that, and go around door to door, ging, 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 ging. Hello, Hare Krishna. Yeah.
I like how low class couple has been described here, because usually if I didn't read this verse and just by a low class, we would think I would think in a different way, maybe very poor or they do. But who is actually low class? He's like the person who's too attached to material life. And as you said, low class is one who doesn't have Mahaprabhu's mercy. So that's a very good
Yeah,
word.
and also in this idea of a low class couple, they think each other to be great. Like you see young couples, they fall in love and then they think, we're the greatest because I love you and you love me. And the ego becomes overinflated. It's like, and they think it's us against the world. And this is a low class mentality. That in the Grihastha ashram, there's an arrangement to come together, but it's for service. It's not thinking that we're going to become the greatest enjoyers in the world. That's all charted out in Paranjana, how the enjoying mentality plays out in the material world. That's why the teachings that we're talking about, Krishna Shiksha, these are very sophisticated, not just sophisticated, but they're also commonsensical and they're absorbable for people in general. If an ordinary person was able to come to the point of being in an atmosphere where he or she could hear the whole story of Paranjana from beginning to the end, then they would have a very wide perspective of the material world and what happens in it. And they would also give up their tendency to be low class, which is to think that my flesh relationship with this other person is something significant. It's not significant, it's stupid. But you think it's nice, and therefore you're low class, because you think that we're great because we're in love. That's commonplace. Animals congregate together because they look, I'm a blackbird, and the other one looks at, I'm a blackbird too. Let's hang out. Let's get a bunch more, And antelopes do it too. And also, they also, run after and save their children. Like an antelope, if it's got a little baby antelope and, some tiger comes, the antelope put its horns down and come charging at it and stuff like that. Nowadays they get in the news and say, isn't this amazing? And not really. It's just natural. And if, a human mother does the same thing to save the child, is it newsworthy? Well, maybe, but it's not some high-class thing. I mean, it's important. They should do that. But I'm just saying that's not the pinnacle of advancement. It's just natural. And those who are following natural urges, falling in love, a young boy and a young girl just naturally fall in love. That's what they do, so-called love. And they become attached to one another, and they exalt one another because that exalts them. It's like, oh, look who I'm with, and we're in love. That's low class. It's not just commonplace. It's actually substandard, and that's the standard of the material world. Everyone's accepting some profane way of life. Actually, it's profane. Can you look the word up and make sure I'm not abusing the word? But there's a way in which my sensibilities become profaned because I become self-centered and I'm doing it for myself, and that's never noble.
So profane is an adjective relating or devoted to that which is not sacred or biblical.
That helps. And where does it come from? Dedicated to that which is not sacred.
So the origin is late Middle English in the sense of heathen. From Old French, profane, from Latin's profanus, which means outside the temple or not sacred.
Uh-huh. That'll do it. Yes?
The word fanum means temple in Latin.
How do you spell it?
F-A-N-U-M.
Fanum.
Yeah. So
Fanum means temple.
Yeah, so pro is before and fanum is temple. So
Profanum.
Profanum.
So it's outside the temple. That's what profane means.
Maharaj, you were mentioning that unabated exploitation of the material world.
Unabated exploitation.
So,
There's nothing to hold you back because you just think well, I got to get mine and I'll exploit others to do it. And there's gross and subtle ways of doing that. Yes.
So, in the corporate currently is going on like auto namaskar and everything. that everyone is trying to get autonomous car. So, and then in the parallel, they are trying to get SDC, is called software defined cockpit, in which they are putting all the technology so that you feel like home theater, everything like 5G technology, and put the the data can come fast there and everything. So how the everything is, I was just saying that, and everyone just supporting and going in that direction, that how to make that theater inside the car.
Inside the car, inside the house, wherever I go. Then I get on the street, I got to have like, special thing. But we're not anti-technology. We're not Luddites at all. But the point is, one point one could make is the kind of satisfaction one can feel from getting into the habit of reciting one chapter of Bhagavad Gita a day. You don't need much. You could just have it on a scroll, or it's it's a simple thing. But the vibration is so purifying and edifying that if one got in the habit of doing that, one might, it would surpass any kind of advanced technological environment in which you're hearing mundane sound vibration. I mean, people nowadays, some people, surround themselves, as you're pointing, in their car, in their home, with technologies they can watch all kinds of movies. In fact, I think it's streaming nowadays, right? Is that what Netflix is? It's a streaming thing? And from what I've understood, there's like hundreds of thousands of choices. But if you examine what the material is, which is what, like the point in Sri Upanishad, Anyad ahura sambhavad, Anyad ahura sambhavad. Try to see what you're taking in, because there'll be a different result from one than the other. And from the simple process of taking in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna Shiksha, if one feels satisfied hearing that, whereas you can watch what they call binge watch 1,000 Netflix films, and there'll be no satisfaction at all. It's just agitation of the mind. Yes.
Well, looking at the purport we've been discussing about the crocodile and the material life and things like that, I was just thinking, I know since the time I got to Krishna consciousness, I always thought that I have to give up the material desire, to enjoy the material world. And I didn't, I was just talking to Rasika Mataji, I had this eureka moment about last week when we were discussing in Bhakti Vaibhava how to get rid of the mind. So, one of the Prabhus actually sent the spiritual scientist by Chaitanya Charan Prabhu article, and he said that, we have this body which is time-based, and then the body will be gone. It will die when you get old. But what happens to the mind? When will you get rid of that material mind? The material mind leaves only when your material desires die. The material mind has nothing to do with it. So Govind Charan Prabhu gave a very nice analogy, which was, it just helped to understand the whole scenario. Like if I'm talking to maybe Rasika Mataji, I have to use a phone to talk to her if I'm home and she's home. But if I'm at the temple, I can directly talk to her. I don't need the phone. So similarly, when I'm in the material world, I need this material mind to get connected. But when I'm back to the spiritual world, my spiritual body has all the components. So I don't need a separate extra material mind or the body. So I was just thinking that for all these years that I've been hearing that I have to give up the material desires is because I have to give up the material mind. So if I give up the material desires before I give up the material body, then I'll be able to go back to the spiritual world. So I was just relating to the whole thing, and it was just an eye-opener for me. Just wanted to share. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. We read last night to a group at Google about Krishna's definitions of birth and death, and they relate to how when somebody can I have that? Do you know which one it is? Which verse? It's very clearly defined. When somebody hears the clear definition of birth and then death, then it becomes it's a self-effulgent explanation. Do you know what verse that is? Oh, that's all right. We can come back to it. So now let's take just a moment to stand up, because all of you have been sitting for the whole morning. Jai Jai Shri Chaitanya Jai Nityananda. Jai Advaita Chandra Jai Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Jai Jai Shri Chaitanya Jai Nityananda. Jai Advaita Chandra Jai Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Jai Jai Shri Chaitanya Jai Nityananda. Jai Advaita Chandra Jai Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Gauranga! Okay, now I'm going to read to you from the Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. This is from Antya Lila, chapter 13. Pastimes with Jagadananda Pandit and Raghunatha-Bhatta Goswami. Let me take shelter at the lotus feet of Lord Gaurachandra. His mind became exhausted and his body very thin from the pain of separation from Krishna. But when he felt ecstatic love for the Lord, he again became fully developed. All glories to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, all glories to Nityananda Prabhu, all glories to Advaita Acharya, and all glories to all the devotees of the Lord. In this way, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would taste various transcendental relationships of pure love in the company of Jagadananda Pandit. The unhappiness of separation from Krishna exhausted the Lord's mind and reduced the structure of his body. But when he felt emotions of ecstatic love, he again became developed and healthy. Because he was very thin, when he lay down to rest on the dry bark of plantain trees, it caused him pain in his bones. All the devotees felt very unhappy to see Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in pain. Indeed, they could not tolerate it. Then Jagadananda Pandit devised a remedy. He acquired some fine cloth and colored it with red oxide. Then he filled it with cotton from a shamula tree. In this way he made a quilt and a pillow, which he then gave to Govinda, saying, "Ask the Lord to lie on this." Jagadananda said to Svarupa-Damodara Goswami, "Today please personally persuade Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to lie down on the bed." When it was time for the Lord to go to bed, Svarupa-Damodara stayed nearby. But when Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu saw the quilt and pillow, he was immediately very angry. The Lord inquired from Govinda, "Who has made this?" When Govinda named Jagadananda Pandit, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was somewhat fearful. After asking Govinda to put aside the quilt and pillow, the Lord laid down on the dry plantain bark. Svarupa-Damodara said to the Lord, "I cannot contradict your supreme will, my Lord, but if you do not accept the bedding, Jagadananda Pandit will feel great unhappiness." Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu replied, "You might as well bring a bedstead here for me to lie on. Jagadananda wants me to enjoy material happiness. I am in the renounced order, and therefore I must lie on the floor. For me to use a bedstead, quilt, or pillow would be very shameful." When Svarupa-Damodara returned and related all these incidents, Jagadananda Pandit felt very unhappy. Then Svarupa-Damodara Goswami devised another method. First, he secured a large quantity of dry banana leaves. He then tore the leaves into very fine fibers with his nails and filled two of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's outer garments with the fibers. In this way, Svarupa-Damodara made some bedding and a pillow, and after much endeavor by the devotees, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu accepted them. Everyone was happy to see the Lord lie down on that bed. But Jagadananda was inwardly angry, and externally he appeared very unhappy. Formerly, when Jagadananda Pandit had desired to go to Vrindavan, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had not given his permission, and therefore he could not go. Now, concealing his anger and unhappiness, Jagadananda Pandit again asked Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu for permission to go to Mathura. With great affection, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, "If you are angry with me when you go to Mathura, you will merely become a beggar and criticize me." Grasping the Lord's feet, Jagadananda Pandit then said, "For a long time I've desired to go to Vrindavan. I could not go without your Lordship's permission. Now you must give me permission, and I shall certainly go there." Because of affection for Jagadananda Pandit, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would not permit him to depart, but Jagadananda Pandit repeatedly insisted that the Lord give him permission to go. Jagadananda then submitted a plea to Svarupa-Damodara Goswami. For a very long time, he said, "I have wanted to go to Vrindavan. I cannot go there, however, without the Lord's permission, which at present he denies me. He says, 'You are going because you are angry at me.' Naturally, I have a desire to go to Vrindavan. Therefore, please humbly request him to grant his permission." Thereafter, Svarupa-Damodara Goswami submitted this appeal at the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Jagadananda Pandit intensely desires to go to Vrindavan. He begs for your permission again and again. Therefore, please permit him to go to Mathura and then return. You permitted him to go see Mother Shachi in Bengal, and you may similarly permit him to go see Vrindavan and then return here. At the request of Svarupa-Damodara Goswami, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu granted Jagadananda Pandit permission to go. The Lord sent for him and instructed him as follows. Varanasi Puryanta Swachande Jaibe Pate Age Swadhane Jaiba Shatri Jade Stani. You may go as far as Varanasi without encountering disturbances, but beyond Varanasi, you should be very careful to travel on the path in the company of the Kshatriyas. Purport. In those days, the path from Varanasi to Vrindavan was infested with robbers, and therefore there were Kshatriyas to protect travelers. As soon as the plunderers on the road see a Bengali traveling alone, they take everything from him, arrest him, and do not let him go. Purport. Bengalis are generally not very stout and strong. Therefore, when a lone Bengali traverses the roads of Bihar, the plunderers on the road capture him, rob all his belongings, and kidnap him for their own service. According to one opinion, the rogues of Bihar know very well that Bengalis are intelligent. Therefore, these thieves generally force the Bengalis into service, requiring intelligence, and do not allow them to leave. When you reach Mathura, you should remain with Sanatana Goswami and offer respectful obeisances to the feet of all the leading men there. Do not mix freely with the residents of Mathura. Show them respect from a distance. Because you are in a different platform of devotional service, you cannot adopt their behavior and practices. Purport. The residents of Vrindavan and Mathura are devotees of Krishna in parental affection, and their feelings always conflict with the opinions of smarta brahmanas. Devotees who worship Krishna in opulence cannot understand the parental devotional feelings of the residents of Mathura and Vrindavan, who follow the path of spontaneous love. Devotees on the platform of Vidhi Marg, regulative devotional principles, may misunderstand the activities of those on the platform of Rag Marg, devotional service in spontaneous love. Therefore, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu instructed Jagadananda Pandit to remain apart from the residents of Vrindavan, who were spontaneous devotees, so as not to become disrespectful towards them. Visit all 12 forests of Vrindavan in the company of Sanatana Goswami. Do not leave his association even for a moment. You should remain in Vrindavan for only a short time and then return here as soon as possible. Also, do not climb Govardhan Hill to see the Gopal deity. Purport: in his Amrita Prabha Bhashya, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur advises that one avoid remaining in Vrindavan for a long time. As the saying goes, familiarity breeds contempt. If one stays in Vrindavan for many days, he may fail to maintain proper respect for its inhabitants. Therefore, those who have not attained the stage of spontaneous love for Krishna should not live in Vrindavan very long. It is better for them to make short visits. One should also avoid climbing Govardhan Hill to see the Gopal deity. Since Govardhan Hill itself is identical with Gopal, one should not step on the hill or touch it with his feet. One may see Gopal when he goes elsewhere. 40. Inform Sanatana Goswami that I am coming to Vrindavan for a second time, and that he should therefore arrange a place for me to stay. After saying this, the Lord embraced Jagannatha Pandit, who then worshipped the Lord's lotus feet and started for Vrindavan. He took permission from all the devotees and then departed. Traveling on the forest path, he soon reached Varanasi. When he met Tapana-Misra and Chandrasekhar in Varanasi, they heard from him about topics concerning Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. One set of Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. We take this moment to remind you to please turn your phones on and the ringers out loud. And every time your phone goes off, you've won one Chaitanya Charitamrita purchase. It's only $99. Not a big deal. When he met Tapana-Misra and Chandrasekhar in Varanasi, they heard from him about topics concerning Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Finally, Jagannatha Pandit reached Mathura, where he met Sanatana Goswami. They were very pleased to see each other. After Sanatana Goswami had taken Jagannatha to see all 12 forests of Vrindavan, concluding with Mahavana, the two of them remained in Gokula. They stayed in Sanatana Goswami's cave, but Jagannatha Pandit would go to a nearby temple and cook for himself. Sanatana Goswami would beg alms from door to door in the vicinity of Mahavana. Sometimes he would go to a temple and sometimes to a brahmana's house. Sanatana Goswami attended to all of Jagannatha Pandit's needs. He begged in the area of Mahavana and brought Jagannatha all kinds of things to eat and drink. One day, Jagannatha Pandit, having invited Sanatan to the nearby temple for lunch, finished his routine duties and began to cook. Previously, a great sannyasi named Mukunda Saraswati had given Sanatana Goswami an outer garment. Sanatana Goswami was wearing this cloth bound about his head when he came to Jagannatha Pandit's door and sat down. Assuming the reddish cloth to be a gift from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Jagannatha Pandit was overwhelmed with ecstatic love. Thus he questioned Sanatana Goswami. "Where did you get that reddish cloth on your head?" Jagannatha asked. Sanatana Goswami replied, "Mukunda Saraswati gave it to me." Hearing this, Jagannatha Pandit immediately became very angry and took a cooking pot in his hand, intending to beat Sanatana Goswami. Sanatana Goswami, however, knew Jagannatha Pandit very well and was consequently somewhat ashamed. Jagannatha therefore left the cooking pot on the stove and spoke as follows. "You are one of the chief associates of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Indeed, no one is dearer to him than you. Still, you have bound your head with a cloth given to you by another sannyasi. Who can tolerate such behavior?" Sanatana Goswami said, "My dear Jagannatha Pandit, you are a greatly learned saint. No one is dearer to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu than you. This faith in Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu quite befits you. Unless you demonstrate it, how could I learn such faith? My purpose in binding my head with the cloth has now been fulfilled. because I have personally seen your uncommon love for Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. The saffron cloth is unfit for a Vaishnava to wear. Therefore, I have no use for it. I shall give it to a stranger. Purport. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur comments on this incident as follows. Vaishnavas are all liberated persons, unattached to anything material. Therefore, Vaishnava need not accept the dress of a sannyasi to prove his exalted position. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu accepted the renounced order from a sannyasi of the Mayavad school. Present day, Vaishnava sannyasis, however, never think that by accepting the dress of the sannyas order, they have become equal to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. In fact, the Vaishnava accepts the sannyas order to remain an eternal servant of his spiritual master. He accepts the sannyas order knowing that he is unequal to his spiritual master, who is a Paramahamsa, and he thinks that he is unfit to dress like a Paramahamsa. Therefore, Vaishnava accepts sannyas out of humility, not out of pride. Sanatana Goswami had adopted the dress of a Paramahamsa. Therefore, it was inappropriate for him to wear the saffron cloth in his head. However, a Vaishnava sannyasi does not think himself fit to imitate the dress of a Paramahamsa Vaishnava. According to the principles set down by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Trinadapi Sunichena, one should always think himself in the lowest stage, not on the level of Paramahamsa Vaishnava. Thus, a Vaishnava will sometimes accept the sannyas order just to keep himself below the level of a Paramahamsa Vaishnava. This is the clear instruction of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. 62. When Jagannatha Pandit finished cooking, he offered the food to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Then he and Sanatana Goswami sat down and ate the prasadam. After eating prasadam, they embraced each other and cried due to separation from Lord Chaitanya. They passed 2 months in Vrindavan in this way. Finally, they could no longer tolerate the unhappiness of separation from Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Jagannatha Pandit therefore gave Sanatana Goswami the message from the Lord. I am also coming to Vrindavan. Please arrange a place for me to stay. When Sanatana Goswami granted permission for Jagannatha to return to Jagannath Puri, he gave Jagannatha some gifts for Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. The gifts consisted of some sand from the site of the Rasa Leela, a stone from Govardhan Hill, dry ripened pilu fruits, and a garland of small conch shells. How many gifts did he take Vrindavan for? What were they? Sand from where? Then? Stone from Govardhan. Garland of conch shells? And pilu fruits. Okay. You're also astute. Thus, Jagannatha Pandit, bearing all these gifts, started on his journey. Sanatana Goswami, however, was very much agitated after bidding him farewell. Soon afterwards, Sanatana Goswami selected a place where Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu could stay while in Vrindavan. It was a temple in the highlands named Dwadashadita Tila. Sanatana Goswami kept the temple very clean and in good repair. In front of it, he erected a small hut. It's amazing, Sanatana Goswami, he's living in a cave, but he wrote all these sophisticated literatures. And he's also building things. I mean, I don't think I could build a hut. In fact, I know I couldn't. But you just see how proficient he was at everything. He's highly intellectual, he's a renunciate, and he built temples and huts and all kinds of things. Sanatana Goswami kept the temple very clean and in good repair. In front, he erected a small hut. Shigra Chali, Nila Chali Gela, Jagadanando, Bhakta Saha Gosai, Hoila, Parama Anando. Meanwhile, traveling very quickly, Jagannatha Pandit soon arrived in Jagannath Puri, much to the joy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his devotees. And as devotees coming and going, it's the life and soul of the Vaishnavas when a beloved devotee comes back. We see all the time from our Sangha, devotees go here, there, and everywhere, and then they come back. I remember when SKP, when we were first on Bascom, and he came up to me with tears in his eyes, said, I have to go back to India. I said, what? Why? He said, employment, it's moved, So we all became very morose, and he left. They came back 1 month later. This happens all the time. But we see throughout the Chaitanya Charitamrita, this is the life of devotional service, is association with devotees. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is eagerly awaiting the arrival of Jagannatha Pandit, so are all the other devotees. And this is the real nectar in life, is the loving exchanges between the devotees in various places. The Lord and His devotees, they are enjoying this rasa, the relationships they have, loving exchanges in the service of Krishna. That's real life. And meanwhile, traveling very quickly. Okay. After offering prayers at the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Jagannatha Pandit greeted everyone. Then the Lord embraced Jagannatha very strongly. So Vrindavan, if you met Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and you bowed down and worshipped His lotus feet and offered prayers, which prayers would you offer to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu? What would you say? He's got it. Go for it. You can make your own. Turn that on, let's hear.
Nama Chintamani Krishna's Chaitanya Rasa Vigraha Purna Shiddho Nityamukto Avinatvam Nama Namino.
Very nice. What brought that up? What were you thinking about?
Well, because I thought it said in the second line, it's in the second line it says Chaitanya, so I just thought I would bring that up and.
You're becoming Shastra Sunipana. Shastra Sunipana is a quality, a very high quality, where you're able to connect different parts of Shastra from one to the next. Very nice. I like your choice of verse. It's very unusual, but it's your reasoning is very sound and satisfying. If you were to meet Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu after long separation, he came, which prayer would you offer? Anyone? Yes.
Dhyayam sata paribhavagnam abhishtadoham tirthaspadam shiva virinchi nutam sharanyam bhrityartiham pranatapala bhavabdipotam vande mahapurushate charanaravindam.
And why did you pick that one and tell everyone what it means also?
So it's the lotus feet of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu are fit to be worshipped by everyone. And these lotus feet, actually they actually remove all the Bhrityartiham Pranatapala, all the, what do you call them? Embarrassments of this material world. And more importantly, they satisfy the innermost desires of your heart. So,
yeah. Deyam sada paribhavagnam abhishtadoham. So it says, Deyam sada, you can always meditate on the lotus feet of Lord Chaitanya. Sada, Deyam sada, paribhavagnam, to remove the embarrassment. Abhishtadoham means it fulfills your inner desire. And then? Vrityartiham pranatapala. No. Deyam sada paribhavagnam abhishtadoham tirtaspadam. Shiva Varinchi Nutam Sharanyam. So they're the sum total of all the tirtas. And Shiva Varinchi Nutam Sharanyam means that Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma, demigods like that, have taken shelter of Lord Chaitanya's lotus feet. And the implication therefore is, then why not you? And then Brityartiham Pranata Palapavabdipotam means that he's very kind to his devotees, for his servants. He delivers his servants, and for them, his lotus feet are like a boat that take him across material nature. Is that all the parts? Vande Mahapurushate Charanadavindam. The lotus feet of the Mahapurush. That's beautiful. Thank you. Okay.
I'm not remembering the verse, all of its parts perfectly, but Ajanulambita Bhujo Kanakavadato Sankirtanaika Pitaro Kamalaya Taksho Vishwambaro Jitavaro Yugadharma Palo Vande Jagata Priyakaro Karanavataro.
Well, we're going to have to start reciting that regularly then. We should have work it into our regular thing. So what did you think of that verse?
So it describes, my favorite part of it is how it describes how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Ajanu Lambita Pujo, he has very long arms, and it describes his beauty and what he has brought this Sankirtan movement to this earth for the deliverance of all the fallen souls. So kind of the essence of what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu...
He's the father of the Sankirtan movement, right? Ajanu Lambita Bhujo Kanakavadato Samkirtanai Kapitoro Kamalaya Taksha Vishvambaro Dvijavaro Yugadharma Palo. He's the best of the Brahmanas. Dvijavaro Yugadharma Palo. Brings the Yugadharma. Vande Jagat Priyakaro Karunavataro. The most merciful of incarnations. That was a good one. Kameshwari. You met Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, you fall at his lotus feet, and what prayer do you offer?
I remember two prayers. Chaitanya Dasamui, Chaitanya Das, Chaitanya Dasamui, Tanra Dasira Das. This is a verse, I think I remember that was sung by Lord Advaita Acharya, and that of course the meaning is implicit. I'm Lord Chaitanya's servant. I'm Lord Chaitanya's servant, and I'm servant of Lord Chaitanya's servant. That is one verse I remember, and one more prayer. Generally, when I take darshan of Lord Chaitanya, I recite his Kathanchana Smriti Yasmin Dushkaram Sukaram Bhavet Vismriti Viparitam Syat Shri Chaitanyam Namamitam. When we remember Lord Chaitanya, difficult things become easy, and if we forget him, then easy things become difficult. I bow down to such Lord Chaitanya.
Bravo, well done. Sadhu, sadhu. Anyone else? Yes. Verses about Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu for 500.
This is the same verse Srila Rupa Goswami offers in Vidagdha Madhav introduction, and Lord Chaitanya himself actually asked, recite this verse, and then he remains silent, and then Lord Chaitanya again says, don't feel shy, recite. So then he recites, and Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu disapproved. So it's a very interesting, so this verse also Sri Kaviraj Goswami refers, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, in Antalila 1.4, Adilila 1.4. It's a very famous verse. Anarpita charim chirat karunaya bhatirna kalo samarpaitam unnata jwalarasam sabhakti shriyam haripurata sundaraduti kadamba sandipta sadaridaya kandare spuratova sachinandano. May the Supreme Lord, who is known as the son of Srimati Sachidevi, be transcendently situated in the innermost chambers of your heart, resplendent with the radiance of molten gold. He has appeared in the age of Kali by his causeless mercy to bestow what no incarnation has ever offered before, the most sublime and radiant mellow of devotional service, the mellow of conjugal love. So this shows the merciful nature of Lord Chaitanya.
Sadhu, sadhu. Srivas Pandit Prabhu. You've met Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, you fell at his lotus feet, and which prayers do we offer?
Samsara dukkha jaladau patitasya kama krodadina kramakarai kavali kritasya durvasana nigaditasya nirashrayasya Chaitanya Chandra mama dehi padavalambam. O Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, I have fallen into this miserable ocean of material existence and I have been devoured by the crocodiles of lust, anger, illusion, etc. And because I am strongly bound by these durvasanas or bad tendencies, and I have no shelter, durvasana nigaditasya, nirashrayasa, and being shelterless in this material world, O Chaitanya Chandra, please give me the shelter of the shade of your lotus feet.
From?
This is from Chaitanya Chandaramitam by Prabodhananda Saraswati, and it's in the middle section where a whole verses of prayers offering one's dainya or one's fallen state is expressed.
Sadhu, sadhu. Gandharvika Radha, and then we have one from the internet.
This is just a simple prayer that Malini also shared in the WhatsApp group. It's Chaitanya Krishna Chaitanyo Gaurango Dvijanayaka Yatinam Dyandinam Chaiva Nyashinam Cha Shiromani Raktambaradhara Shriman Navadvipa Sudhakara Prema Bhakti Pradaschaiva Shri Shachinandanastada Dvadasaitani Namani Trisandyam Nyahapaten Naraha Tasya Vancha Shushiddihi Bhakti Srila Padambuchet. These are the 12 names of Lord Chaitanya that Svarupa-Damodara Bhattacharya composed. And then he says that any living entity who recites these 3 sandhyas, they'll get bhakti for Gauranga.
Bhakti for Gauranga. Well, that's pretty good. Very nice. So just by offering prayers, this is the second of the 3 that we had mentioned that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu included in his order to Haridas Thakur and Lord Inanda and the rest of the devotees and everybody in the world, actually. And that is go out and teach these 3 things. And so it's so powerful to worship the lotus feet of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. If during the 3 sandhyas you just offer him a few prayers like that, then what do you get? Bhakti for Gauranga. That's a big thing. Okay, and now we have from the internet. Chaitanya Krishna Chaitanya.
This is from Govind Charan Prabhu.
Govinda Charan. He's like a magician. Okay.
Vairagya Vidya Nija Bhakti Yoga.
To be honest with you, I was feeling intense separation. Because whenever Chaitanya Charan or Sri Krishna, when you leave the room, then I feel. But now, our life has come back. This is the way of devotional service. If we can somehow or other stay in touch. Okay, go ahead.
Vairagya Vidya Nija Bhakti Yoga Sikshartam Eka Purusha Puranaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Shariradhari Kritam Buddhir Yastam Aham Prapadye. Let me take shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead Shri Krishna, who has descended in the form of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to teach us real knowledge, his devotional service and detachment from whatever does not foster Krishna consciousness. He has descended because he is an ocean of transcendental mercy. Let me surrender unto his lotus feet.
We've got another one from Vrindavan.
Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta-vrinda.
Can you say more about that?
It means that all glories to Shri Krishna Chaitanya, all glories to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and all glories to all his associates and it's all his associates who helped him spread the Sankirtan movement.
Who's Lord Nityananda?
Lord Balaram, the expansion of the
What
first
about
expansion.
Sri Advaita?
He's Mahavishnu and Lord Shiva combined.
How about Gadadhar?
He's Srimati Radharani.
Jai Shri Shri Radha Madan Mohan Ji ki jai, Jai Shri Man Mahaprabhu ki jai, Shri Shri Lakshmi Shingadev ki jai, Go Premanande Haribol. Gadadhar?
He's Srimati Radharani.
What about Srivas?
He's the servant of this. I think he's a servant. I think it means that like he's a servant of the. Oh, Narada Muni, sorry.
And what about Gaura Bhakta-vrinda?
All the associates of.
Haribo. The devotees who are familiar where was I? 71 I was at? Okay. 71. Meanwhile, traveling very quickly, Jagannatha Pandit soon arrived in Jagannath Puri, much to the joy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. After offering prayers at the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, much like the ones you all just offered, Jagannatha Pandit greeted everyone. Then the Lord embraced Jagannatha very strongly. Jagannatha Pandit offered obeisances to the Lord on behalf of Sanatana Goswami. Then he gave the Lord the dust from the site of the rasa dance, along with the other gifts. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu kept all the gifts except the pilu fruits, which he distributed to the devotees. Because the fruits were from Vrindavan, everyone ate them with great happiness. Those devotees who were familiar with the pilu fruits sucked on the seeds, but the Bengali devotees who did not know what they were chewed the seeds and swallowed them. It's interesting because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's movement is it's an international movement, and as it grew and devotees of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came from different parts of the world, we all had to become acquainted, and still do. But in the early days, I can remember that when we first went to Mayapur and then Vrindavan, and there was a couple hundred devotees from around the world that all came in one place. And I'd never met German devotees before. I don't know if I'd ever met anybody from Germany, period. But I was standing in the kirtan when the German devotees came up to me and said, "Give me the madunga." And just walked away with it. I said, "What just happened?" They go, "Those are the Germans." And I remember being in Chicago when some Bengalis came, and they felt so out of place there. They couldn't relate to any of the prasadam. It was very difficult because they're used to like Bengali cooking every day, and they were always freezing because it was so cold there compared to Bengal. And just it's multicultural. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's project, people from all over the world. Now, while we were just in Mayapur, we saw all the Chinese devotees, huge, convention halls filled with Chinese devotees chanting Hare Krishna. What?
It was so nice to see, especially in the yatra, how they have their own community. There was such an influx of them. I mean, I only went to the yatra 5 years ago, but even compared to that, there's so many, and they have their translation systems. Yeah. They have their own ways, and they've invented to somehow keep their vibration going, however that may be, which is really inspiring, even though the language is a barrier.
Yeah. Mahaprabhu unites living entities from everywhere, from all over the universe, from all different backgrounds and cultures and everything. And so you can see even during his manifest pastimes how he was doing that with different devotees from all different parts of India. In fact, even he brought in the Pathan Muslims gave them spiritual initiation even when he met them and so forth. And Prabhupada said this is the duty of a person in Krishna consciousness, to go all over the world and to bring people in closer to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and the Krishna consciousness movement. So Jagadananda offered obeisance to the Lord on behalf of Sanatana Goswami. So you can do that. That's bona fide. Then he gave the Lord the dust from the site of the rasa dance along with the other gifts. And back up to 76. The hot chili-like taste burned the tongues of those who chewed the seeds. Thus the eating of pilu fruits from Vrindavan became a pastime of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's. When Jagadananda Pandit returned from Vrindavan, everyone was jubilant. Thus Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu enjoyed his pastimes while residing at Jagannath Puri. One day when the Lord was going to the temple of Yameshwara, a female singer began to sing in the Jagannath temple. She sang a Gujari tune in a very sweet voice. And because the subject was Jayadev Goswami's Gita Govinda, the song attracted the attention of the entire world. Hearing the song from a distance, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu immediately became ecstatic. He did not know whether it was a man or a woman singing. As the Lord ran in ecstasy to meet the singer, thorny hedges pricked his body. Govinda ran very quickly behind the Lord, who did not feel any pain from the pricking of the thorns. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was running very rapidly, and the girl was only a short distance away. Just then Govinda caught the Lord in his arms and cried, "It's a woman singing!" As soon as he heard the words woman, the Lord became externally conscious and turned back. "My dear Govinda," he said, "you have saved my life. If I had touched the body of a woman, I would certainly have died. I shall never be able to repay my debt to you." Govinda replied, "Lord Jagannath has saved you. I am insignificant." I love that phrase. Govinda kahe, Jagannath rakhina mui konchar. Jagannath has saved you. I am insignificant. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu replied, "My dear Govinda, you should stay with me always." Jai Shri Shri Radha Madan Mohan Ji ki Jai, Shriman Mahaprabhu ki Jai, Shri Shri Lakshmi Nrsingadev ki Jai. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu replied, "My dear Govinda, you should stay with me always. There is danger anywhere and everywhere, therefore you should protect me very carefully." After saying this, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu returned home. When Svarupa-Damodara Goswami and his other attendants heard about the incident, they became very much afraid. During this time, Raghunatha-Bhatta, the son of Tapana-Misra, gave up all his duties and left home, intending to meet Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Accompanied by a servant carrying his baggage, Raghunatha-Bhatta started from Varanasi and traveled along the path leading through Bengal. In Bengal, he met Ramadasa-visvasa, who belonged to the Kayasta caste. He was one of the king's secretaries. The word Vishwas Kanara, Kyasta, indicate a secretary or clerk belonging to the Kayasta caste. Kayastas were usually secretaries to kings, governors, or other important persons. It is said that anyone working in the government secretariat at this time was a Kayasta. Ramadasa-visvasa was very learned in all the revealed scriptures. He was a teacher of the famous book Kavya Prakash and was known as an advanced devotee and worshipper of Raghunath, Lord Ramachandra. Purport: commenting on the word Parama Vaishnava, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur says that anyone who desires to merge into the existence of the Lord cannot be a pure Vaishnava. But because Ramadasa-visvasa was a great devotee of Lord Ramachandra, he was almost a Vaishnava. In those days, no one could distinguish between a pure Vaishnava and a pseudo-Vaishnava. Therefore, Ramadasa-visvasa was known as a Vaishnava because he worshipped Lord Ramachandra. Ramdas had renounced everything and was going to see Lord Jagannath. While traveling, he chanted the holy name of Ram 24 hours a day. When he met Raghunatha-Bhatta on the way, he took Raghunath's baggage on his head and carried it. Ramdas served Raghunatha-Bhatta in various ways, even massaging his legs. Raghunatha-Bhatta felt some hesitation in accepting all this service. You are a respectable gentleman, a learned scholar and a great devotee, Raghunatha-Bhatta said. Please do not try to serve me. Just come with me in a happy mood. Ramdas replied, I am a Shudra, a fallen soul. To serve a Brahmana is my duty and religious principle. Therefore, please do not be hesitant. I am your servant, and when I serve you, my heart becomes jubilant. Thus Ramdas carried the baggage of Raghunatha-Bhatta and served him sincerely. He constantly chanted the holy name of Lord Ramachandra day and night. Traveling in this way, Raghunatha-Bhatta soon arrived at Jagannath Puri. There he met Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu with great delight and fell at his lotus feet. Raghunatha-Bhatta fell straight as a rod on the lotus feet, at the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Then the Lord embraced him, knowing well who he was. Raghunath offered respectful obeisances to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu on behalf of Tapana-Misra and Chandrasekhar, and the Lord also inquired about them. It is very good that you have come here, the Lord said. Now go see the lotus-eyed Lord Jagannath. Today you will accept prasadam here at my place. The Lord asked Govinda to arrange for Raghunath-Bhatta's accommodations and then introduced him to all the devotees, headed by Svarupa-Damodara Goswami. Thus Raghunath-Bhatta lived with Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu continuously for 8 months. And by the Lord's mercy, he felt increasing transcendental happiness every day. He would periodically cook rice with various ingredients and invite Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to his home. Raghunatha-Bhatta was an expert cook. Whatever he prepared tasted just like nectar. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would accept with great satisfaction all the food he prepared. After the Lord was satisfied, Raghunatha-Bhatta would eat his remnants. When Ramadasa-visvasa met Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the Lord did not show him any special mercy, although this was their first meeting. Within his heart, Ramadasa-visvasa was an impersonalist who desired to merge into the existence of the Lord, and he was very proud of his learning. Since Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the omniscient Supreme Personality of Godhead, is this omniscient, he can understand the heart of everyone, and thus he knew all these things. Ramadasa-visvasa then took up residence in Jagannath Puri and taught the Kavya Prakash to the Patanyayaka family, the descendants of Bhavananda Roy. After 8 months, when Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu bade farewell to Raghunatha-Bhatta, the Lord flatly forbade him to marry. Do not marry, the Lord said. I thought it was very interesting, because the Chaitanya Charitamrita is describing the life in the spiritual world, the way that devotees interact with one another. Just from the last verse, number 111, Ramadasa-visvasa, well, even backing up one more verse, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu noted that he could understand the quality of his heart, that he had some ulterior motive, and therefore he was not so enthusiastic about him and bringing him into the fold. Nonetheless, you see in the next verse that he's teaching this Kavya Prakash to the Patanyayaka family, who are all pure devotees. And it just reminded me somehow the way in which our Vaishnava communities, there's so many different currents going through. And there may be somebody in the midst that is, we may consider, like, person has an ulterior motive, they're not teaching pure devotional service, but they may end up integrating somehow with the devotees. And what to do? Life's not so easy when you're dealing with living entities, because they all have free will and they're going in their different directions. And so one can't be entirely tipped over if every situation doesn't perfectly match up with one's expectations. You have to, life goes on. I once asked one of the senior leaders of our movement, after I had attended a meeting that to me was very disturbing, because, but now I'm starting to get used to it, because but I was really green, and I was like, how do you, at the break, I was like, this is really disturbing my mind. How do you handle all this bad news? Because stuff goes sideways all the time. And he said, life goes on. You just wake up the next morning and do your service, and life goes on. What else are you going to do? You know, we have to go on serving Lord Chaitanya and his movement to the best of our capacity. Even if we have some misstep ourselves, you still have to pick yourself up and keep going. Supada mulam bhajata priyasya tyaktanya bhavesha hare priyeshaha vikarma yat shotpatitam katanchid hunoti sarvam hridisani vishtaha. The Bhagavatam says, because the Lord's omniscient, he's entered within the hearts of the devotees. He knows their intentions. So if somebody makes a mistake or does some vikarma accidentally, the prayaschitta, there is no real prayaschitta except that one goes on sincerely doing devotional service. And because the Lord is within the heart, and because the devotees are very dear to him, he rectifies the heart of the devotees, keeps going. This is the fact of Lord Chaitanya, we see again and again how he's omniscient, and he knows the hearts and minds of the devotees. It's very endearing because he's acting like an ordinary human being amongst devotees. That's how the sweetness comes in. If his omniscience comes out too much, just as in Krishna Lila, that's suppressed in Goloka Vrindavan, in Vraj, because the devotees, you came back. We finally, did you like all those shlokas? I could tell. You didn't go away. You stayed for all of them. That was like an hour and 15 minutes of shlokas. I was pretty impressed. But it's suppressed in Vraj, because otherwise, if one sees the opulence of the Lord and his powers and things like that, it puts some distance. As though these are very sweet pastimes with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his devotees. Other times when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu showed his omniscience. It was during the yatra, when the devotees were coming from Navadvip going to Puri, and Shivananda Sain, who was very expert, was taking care of all the devotees, and he would make sure that they had lodging at night, and they were getting food, and he would pay for the boats, all these kinds of things. And one day, they had been a little delayed, and the prasadam had been delayed, and Nityananda Prabhu became hungry. So he came, and he said, "Where's this Shivananda Sain?" He said, "I'm hungry. He's not feeding me." He said, I curse all of his sons to die. And then when the Shivananda Sain's wife heard this, she became very disturbed and was crying. When Shivananda Sain came back and Lord Nityananda saw him, he came and kicked him. He said, "I'm hungry." And so Shivananda Sain, he took it as such a benediction that he had been kicked by Lord Nityananda, and his wife was wailing that he's cursed our sons to die. He said, "Foolish woman, if he's cursed our sons to die, they should die. That this is a great benediction. And not only that, for the inconvenience I've caused them, they should die." It was his mood. But the younger son? No, it was Shrikant, who had, he was the nephew of Shivananda Sain. And when he saw this very demonstrative kick by Lord Nityananda, he became indignant and thinking, he doesn't know how great my uncle is. Now Lord Nityananda's kicked him like that. So in an angry mood, he went ahead and went straight to find Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And when he came in to meet Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Govinda invited him into the presence of the Lord. And it's an offense, Prabhupada writes in the purport, if you wear your shirt and coat before you come to the Lord. Therefore, when we go on the altar, we don't wear our kurtas and things like that. And so Govinda indicated you should take off your shirt and coat before you sit in the presence of the Lord. And then Mahaprabhu said, oh, don't disturb him right now. His mind's very disturbed because of some incident. And so Srikant, he went on talking to the Lord, he became pacified, and he could understand that the Lord was omniscient, as he had understood the circumstances under which he had come there. The Kavya Prakash. After 8 months, when Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu bade farewell to Raghunatha-Bhatta, the Lord flatly forbade him to marry. Vivaha na kariya, bali nisheda karila. Do not marry, the Lord said. Purport: Raghunatha-Bhattacharya had become a greatly advanced devotee while still unmarried. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu could see this, and therefore he advised him not to begin the process of material sense gratification. Marriage is a concession for people who are unable to control their senses. Raghunath, however, being an advanced devotee of Krishna, naturally had no desire for sense gratification. Therefore, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu advised him not to enter the bondage of marriage. Generally, a person cannot make much advancement in spiritual consciousness if he is married. He becomes attached to his family and is prone to sense gratification. Thus, his spiritual advancement is very slow or almost nil. Of course, when the whole family is engaged in devotional services, all of the devotees here at ISV, everyone's fully engaged, and even the children, and when people's parents come from foreign countries, they end up out on Sankirtan and coming to all kinds of events and things like that. Prabhupada writes elsewhere that when there's such collaboration and cooperation, there's no hindrance from being in that ashram. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said to Raghunatha-Bhatta, when you return home, serve your aged father and mother who are devotees, and try to study Srimad Bhagavatam from a pure Vaishnava who has realized God. Purport: one should note how Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, advised Raghunatha-Bhattacharya to learn Srimad Bhagavatam. He advised him to understand Srimad Bhagavatam not from professional men, but from a real Bhagavata, a devotee. He also advised Raghunatha-Bhatta to serve his mother and father because they were both Lord Chaitanya's devotees. Anyone who wishes to advance in Krishna consciousness must try to serve the devotees of Krishna. As Narottam Das Thakur says, Chadiya Vaishnab Sheba, Nishtar Prayechi Keba. Without serving a self-realized Vaishnava, no one has ever been released from the materialistic way of life. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would have never advised Raghunatha-Bhatta to serve ordinary parents, but since his parents were Vaishnavas, the Lord advised him to serve them. One might ask, why shouldn't ordinary parents be served? As stated in Srimad Bhagavatam. Some in the front row are asking that. As stated in Srimad Bhagavatam 5.5.18, Gurur nasasyat swajano nasasyat, pita nasasyat janani nasasyat, daivam datasyat apatishtasasyan, namochayadya samapeta mrityum. One who cannot deliver his dependent from the path of birth and death should never become a spiritual master, a relative, a father or mother, or worshipable demigod, nor should such a person become a husband. Everyone naturally gets a father and mother at the time of birth, but the real father and mother are those who can release their offspring from the clutches of imminent death. This is possible only for parents advanced in Krishna consciousness. Therefore, any parents who cannot enlighten their offspring in Krishna consciousness cannot be accepted as a real father and mother. The following verse from the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu confirms the uselessness of serving ordinary parents. Laukika Vaidika Vapi Va Kriya Kriyeta Mune Hari Savanu Kulaiva Sa Karya Bhaktim Uchata. That's from the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. One should perform only those activities, either worldly or prescribed by Vedic rules and regulations, which are favorable for the cultivation of Krishna consciousness. Concerning the study of Srimad Bhagavatam, I see everyone's ears perking up. This is right down your alley. Concerning the study of Srimad Bhagavatam, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu clearly advises that one avoid hearing from a non-Vaishnav professional reciter. In this connection, Sanatana Goswami quotes a verse from the Padma Purana, Avaishnava mukodgirnam putam harikatam ritam shravanam naiva kartavyam sarpochishtam yatapaya. No one should hear or take lessons from a person who is not a Vaishnava. Even if he speaks about Krishna, such a lesson should not be accepted, for it is like milk touched by the lips of a serpent. Nowadays it is fashionable to observe Bhagavat Saptaha and hear Srimad Bhagavatam from persons who are anything but advanced devotees or self-realized souls. There are even many Mayavadis who read Srimad Bhagavatam to throngs of people. Many Mayavadis have recently begun reciting Srimad Bhagavatam in Vrindavan, and because they can present the Bhagavatam with word jugglery, twisting the meanings by grammatical tricks, materialistic persons who go to Vrindavan as a matter of spiritual fashion like to hear them. All this is clearly forbidden by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. We should note carefully that since these Mayavadis cannot personally know the meaning of Srimad Bhagavatam, they can never deliver others by reciting it. On the other hand, an advanced devotee of the Lord is free from material bondage. He personifies Srimad Bhagavatam in life and action. Therefore, we advise that anyone who wants to learn Srimad Bhagavatam must approach a self-realized soul. How is everybody? You're very happy because you have a good life. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu concluded, "Come again to Nilachal at Jagannath Puri." After saying this, the Lord put his own neck beads on Raghunatha-Bhatta's neck. Then the Lord embraced him and bade him farewell. Where are those neck beads? Where are they now, do you think? If I was to guess, I would say Indradyumna Maharaj has them. Then the Lord embraced him and bade him farewell. Overwhelmed with ecstatic love, Raghunatha-Bhatta began to cry due to imminent separation from Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. After taking permission from Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and all the devotees, headed by Svarupa-Damodara, Raghunatha-Bhatta returned to Varanasi. In accordance with the instructions of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he continuously rendered service to his mother and father for 4 years. He also regularly studied Srimad Bhagavatam from a self-realized Vaishnav. Then his parents died at Kashi, Varanasi, and he became detached. He therefore returned to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, giving up all relationships with his home. As previously, Raghunath remained continuously with Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu for 8 months. Then the Lord gave him the following order. Amaraknai Raghunath Jar Brindabane Tahan Jaha Raha Rupa Shanatana Shani. My dear Raghunath, on my order, go to Vrindavan and live there under the care of Rupa and Sanatan Goswamis. Let's hear it from a Bengali. I want to hear that one. We got 2 Bengalis. We'll hear from both of them. 3. Okay. Give the microphone. We'll start here. 1, 2. Okay, you start.
Okay.
Read
so
it.
it's spelled as Shantana Goswami.
Just read the verse. Read the verse.
Amara Ajanya, upon my order, Raghunatha.
No, just read the whole Bengali verse.
Okay. Amra Ajanne Raghunatho Yaha Brindabone Tahon Yana Raha Rupa Shantona Shathe. Something like that.
You're a Bengali?
Yes.
Okay. Let's hear the next Bengali. Okay.
আমার আজ্ঞায় রঘুনাথ যাহা বৃন্দাবনে তাহা যাইয়া রহ রূপ সনাতন স্থানে.
Okay. We're going to take a vote who sounded most Bengali.
আমার আজ্ঞায় রঘুনাথ যাহ বৃন্দাবনে তাহা যাইয়া রহরূপ সনাতন স্থানে.
Okay. We don't have to vote. Number 3-1. Okay. The Lord gave him this order. My dear Raghunatha, my order, go to Vrindavan and live there under the care of Rupa and Sanatana Goswamis. In Vrindavan, you should chant the Hare Krishna mantra 24 hours a day and read Srimad Bhagavatam continuously. Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, will very soon bestow his mercy upon you. After saying this, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu embraced Raghunatha-Bhatta, and by the Lord's mercy, Raghunath was enlivened with ecstatic love for Krishna. How'd you like to get that instruction? Go to Vrindavan to live with Rupa and Sanatana, chant Hare Krishna 24 hours a day, and also continuously read Srimad Bhagavatam. That means, like, there's more than 24 hours in a day then. Someone had their hand up? Yes?
I had a question on, how do you do that?
How do you do that?
Yeah, the multiplexing.
Well, I mean, it means continuously chant and hear. That's all. It's like Bhagavat Pada, read Srimad Bhagavatam, Shraddha, always. Laha Krishna Nam, chant Hare Krishna Mahamantra, Achire, very soon. So it's really Sada, it just means always. Just stay constantly engaged, 24 hours. And if, everyone should, to their capacity, should organize their life so they can do the maximum amount of hearing and chanting. And birds fly in the sky as high as they're able. So we have to do according. Devotional service has to be done according to one's capacity. Svesvayadi Karyanishta Saguna Parikirtita, Krishna says in the 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, when you do according to capacity, it's a good quality. And then he says, shouldn't do more and shouldn't do less. And should always try to increase. I think in the midst of hearing from the Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, which is written by Krishnas Kaviraj Goswami, and which tells of the life and teachings of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And throughout the teachings of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, for instance, in his teaching to Srila Sanatana Goswami, we find that he enumerates 64 practices of devotional service, and then he describes 5 that are particularly important and powerful. Make those seats nice and neat after the arti. This should be lined up evenly. And in this next song by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Shuddha Bhakata Charanarenu, we hear about the different ways in which Bhaktivinoda Thakur follows Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's process of devotional service and relishes all the different aspects of pure devotional service. Shuddha Bhakata Charanarenu Bhajananukula Shuddha Bhakata Charanare Anukula Bhakata Seva Paramasiddhi Premalati Karambula Madhavatiti Bhakti Janani Jatani Palana Kori Krishna Bhasati Bhasati Boli Paramadare Bhori Gaura Jeshavastane Kololo Brahmanarange Sheshavastana Heribo Ami Prayani Bhakata Shange Mridanga Bhaja Shunate Mana Abhashara Shuddha Jache Gaurvihita Kirtana Shuni Anande Hridaya Nache Jugala Murti Daki Amora Parama Ananda Hoya Prasada Seva Korite Hoya Sakala Prapancha Jaya Jenina Grihe Bhajana Dekhi Grihete Goloka Bhaya Charana Siddhu Tekiya Ganga Sukadasi Mapaya Tulsi Dehi Ki Juraya Prana Madhavato Shani Jani Gaura Priya Shakshevane Jivana Sartakamane Bhakati Vinod Krishna Bhajane Anakula Payajaha Pratidivase Paramasukhe Swikara Koro Yeta Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Nitai Gaura Haribo, 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 Nitai Gaura Haribo. Nitai Gaura Haribo, 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 Nitai Gaura Haribo. Nitai Gaura Premanande. You all are just like honeybees, because you're flying in to get nectar from the flower. I so deeply appreciate. When I see devotees, they come in to see Krishna here. A lot of devotees, before they go to work in the morning, they'll stop in, and some in the afternoon, some in the evening. You're coming in like to the flower, the lotus, and you're taking away some sweet nectar. But as you go out again, just as bees, they cross-pollinate because they touch the flower, the pollen sticks to their legs, and then they go to another place, and it detaches itself again. And so when you all come in here, you're taking in this special nectar, and some of the pollen sticks to your legs. When you fly back out to the various other places and you stop here and there, inevitably the same vibration that's coming from you will then come out to others. And this is inconceivable how powerful Krishna's names are. Apana samsritim gauran yannamo vivishogranan tata sadyo vimucheta yabhipeti swayambayam. This sadyo means immediately. It's immediately effective. It's not that you ever have to wait for the holy name to become something else. It's always Krishna, non-different. And therefore, when you say Hare Krishna, Hare Rama, or as some people say, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna. Go ahead. It's nice either way. Just by saying the names Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Rama, then you come directly in contact with Krishna and you feel this nectar. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur's written about the nectar tasting process in this song, Shuddha Pakata. And he's ruminating about all the ways in which he's living in devotional service and experiencing a great happiness. So the first line, Shuddha Pakata, which we'll see, it'll come up on the screen. It's like magic. You just say it and it comes out. Shuddha Pakata Charanarenu. He says the root cause of the devotional service and advancement is dust, renu, from the pure devotees. And this dust comes because when you associate with devotees, then you begin to take on their qualities. If you associate with anybody, you take on their qualities. And just by serving devotees and getting their favor, one can attain special mercy. Of course, Prabhupada writes in the Bhagavatam that one can ask a favor from a Vaishnava or from the spiritual master. He said, but one shouldn't ask a favor unless one's rendered some meaningful service. You should do something first. That's why Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita says, Tadvidi pranipatina pariprashnena sevaya uparakshanti te jnanam jnaninas tattvadarshina. There's a way to approach devotees. The dust from the lotus feet of pure devotees gives rise to devotional service. But especially if one approaches Vaishnavas in the proper mood, then and which is described in the Bhagavad Gita, pranipat. Pranipat means in a submissive way. One becomes submissive. And if you've ever talked to somebody who already knows it all, then you don't feel that inclined to say anything more. But if somebody is very eager to hear, then practically one, without much effort, divulges everything one knows. It's magic like that. It's like you have to have the right download cables. If it doesn't match, then the information doesn't come through. So pranipat means you have to make the right port or a plug. You have to have the right dongle to get that information. That's submissiveness. Praniprashnena means that you should ask relevant questions. And those relevant questions are not mental concoctions. It's not asking questions because one wants to stimulate one's thinking capacity. But relevant questions come up in the life of those who are practicing devotional service very seriously. When one sincerely chants Hare Krishna, for instance, there may be an experience that, oh, I can see that I'm not very advanced at all. I actually don't have any qualities. I'm not worthy of the association of devotees. What should I do? These kinds of deep, pressing questions about how I can actually advance that come through the realization of one's own practice and seeing one's own neediness and then asking questions, pre-prashnena, these will be very effective because advanced devotees can also detect the sincerity of questions. I've mentioned several times in this assembly, but it's a good example. There was one new devotee in Japan when Prabhupada was visiting there, and just to ask a question, he said, have you ever met Indra? And Prabhupada said, what difference does it make to you if I've met Indra or not? How does that help you in your spiritual life? So one should ask questions that arise because of one's a deep desire and need to advance in devotional service. And practically, if one associates with devotees in very focused hearing and chanting sessions, the great benefit is you come out with more questions than you do answers. That's the sign of good hearing and chanting. You go away, you've expanded your surface area, your capacity for thinking about Krishna and inquiring about Krishna. Of course, you'll never come to the end of that because Krishna is unlimited. But when you stimulate that desire to know more about Krishna and you go down philosophical lanes in various directions and then you think, oh, but I need to know this so I can know that. And these kinds of pressing questions are what keep us hungry. So we should be humble and hungry. And also sevaya. One has to render service to the lotus feet of pure devotees. So when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was just a little boy, he was named Nimai. And then he was called Nimai Pandit because he established himself as the greatest scholar of Navadvip. He was so amazing. He would make people's heads spin when he would speak philosophy. Even the great Bhattacharyas in town developed a great respect for this young boy as they saw how expert he was at everything, and beautiful too. And it went to his head. He was a little puffed up, a lot puffed up. He would challenge people just for the sake of cutting them up in public and walk away with a smug look on his face. And so forth. And the devotees used to think, that is all the Vaishnavas in Navadvip, they had formed their own movement around Srila Advaitacharya. As Srila Advaitacharya wanted to spread Krishna consciousness to everybody, and he saw how pathetic the atmosphere was. And he was praying for Lord Chaitanya. Of course, Nimai appeared, and there was an inkling. He was the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but he kept himself covered. He didn't reveal himself as the avatar that he was until later. And up to that time, when he was a scholar, he had this sense about him that I know everything, and he wasn't exhibiting great devotional qualities until he went to Gaya. There he went to observe the Shraddha ceremony for his father. And while there, he met Srila Ishvarapuri. Srila Ishvarapuri became his spiritual master. And when he came back, that is Nimai, back into Navadvip, he had changed, and he became a great servitor of the Lord. He would go here, there, and everywhere to carry things for the devotees. Oh, let me help you. I'll bring water for you. And then it was, oh, no, that's all right. No problem. But Nimai was very insistent and determined, and his mood had changed and become an intense seeking of where his question, where is Krishna, again and again. And so he showed by his example how one who becomes advanced in devotional service becomes a servitor of the devotees, and how that's the precursor for one advancing in devotional service, is to become the servant of the devotees. One can very easily then advance. So if one serves a devotee, then the devotee becomes inclined to that person and can bestow favors, and becomes open to pouring out whatever knowledge and experience and mercy that he or she has. So this dust from the lotus feet of pure devotees is very important, and also the dust from the lotus feet of devotees is called dhulis. They're the dhulis. Everyone say dhuli. So the dhulis too, you don't want to offend a pure devotee, because although the pure devotee may forgive you, the dhulis may not. These are the personified foot dust of the devotees. They may become angry and give some trouble. So you have to be careful not only to serve the devotees, but also don't offend the devotees, because even if they forgive you, the dhulis may get you. Then, so this is, and service to the devotees is supreme perfection and the root of the tender creeper of divine love. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu taught this to Sanatana Goswami. He said, he quoted various verses from the Bhagavatam. Two we can remember right now. One of them is from the 5th canto. Rahuganai tat tapasana yati nachejaya nirvapanad grihadva nachandasadnaiva grihad Vinamahat padarajo bhishekam. Let's take that again. Rahuganai tat tapasana yati nachejaya nirvapanad grihadva nachandasadnaiva jalagni suryar Vina Mahat Padarajo Bhishekam, Vina Mahat Padarajo Bhishekam. So he's describing how you can't make advancement in devotional service. Bhakti doesn't come, he says, from performing severe austerities. For instance, if you drive up to Lake Tahoe right now, I really have a thing about Tahoe today. You drive up to Tahoe, and I haven't been there in about 40 years. Actually, more like 45. And and then you find a pool of ice water. Well, it's freezing outside, and you submerge yourself in there up to your neck there in Lake Tahoe, and you just stay there. By that kind of austerity, you won't get bhakti. Or you can find a very hot place. Where's the hottest place you can think of? Death Valley. You've been there? It's hot, eh? Go there in the summer. In December, it's hot. I think Jagannath Puri is the hottest place I've ever been. By 3 o'clock in the morning, it's hot enough that I was living on the top floor. I was living on the roof up there in Jagannath Puri before the Rath Yatra. It came 2 weeks before the Rath Yatra. By the time you could see a little red on the horizon from the sun coming up, it was too hot to live for a Californian. And it's hot. So if you go to the hottest place you can think of, and then you add a little extra heat by making fires around you, and then you sit in the middle of that just to detach yourself from the world. He says you won't get bhakti from that. He said you can also attend to the Grihastha ashram perfectly. There are rules and regulations you'll find in the Srimad Bhagavatam and other shastras that tell you how to be a great Grihastha. Or a Vanaprastha. Vanaprastha is supposed to wear tree bark. Did you know that? Yes? Anyone want to try it? Wear tree bark. And all of these ways in which one may follow Varnashram rules and regulations, he says, that won't do it either. You can become a perfect sannyasi also, but you won't get bhakti. Vina mahat pada rajobhishekam. Without getting the foot bath of the dust from the lotus feet of pure devotees, pure Vaishnavas. They have no motive in life other than to serve Krishna, service for service. They're not asking anything in return. Then if you serve devotees like that, then, he said, that's when devotional service can arise. And then in the seventh canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, how's the verse start? Naisham matisthavara rukramangrim sprishat yanarta pagamo yadartaha mahiyasam rajabaj. Naisham matisthavara rukramangrim sprishat yanarta pagamo yadartaha mahiyasam pararajobhishekam nishkinchananam navranita yavat. Nishkinchana devotees, you have to find those who have no interest in anything material. They're only interested in spiritual life. And this is a very similar verse. And he says, if you serve these devotees, you get the dust. In fact, he says, the way he describes it is poetical. He says, you have to get an abhishek with the dust. You should bathe yourself in the dust. This is this is parallel with the way in which Rupa Goswami describes in his Upadeshamrita. If you find a devotee who is very advanced, then he said, then you should give yourself to that person. You should give your life and wealth. That verse says, Krishneti yasya giritam manasadriyeta dikshasti chet pranati bishta bhajantamisham shushushaya bhajanam vignam ananyamanya nindadi shunya hridamipsata sangalabhya. If somebody's nindadi shunya, you find somebody's free from envy, which is the highest form of religion, according to the Srimad Bhagavatam. We just read recently that Nyasa dandasya bhuteshu means that if you give up envy for all living entities, this is parodharma. This is the highest religion, is to give up envy for all living entities. If you find such a person, that person, Rupa Goswami says you should try to serve. You try to hear from. You should try to give yourself to. And then you can make advancement. And then similarly, Mahat Sevam Dwarava Muhurva Muktes. Do you all know this? Mahat Sevam. I'll say it and you tell me what it means. Mahat Sevam Dwara Mahurva Muktes. Mahat means? Yeah, it's talking about great souls. And Sevam? Mahat Sevam Dwaram. What's a dwar? Yeah, it's a door. So this is another metaphor. So it's saying service to the mahats, that is the great souls. Mahat sevam dwaram ahur vamuktes. What is vamukti? That's right. So if you serve, this is the metaphor, if you serve, as you serve the great souls, then the door to liberation opens to you. So all these ways, this is the beginning point of devotional service, the getting association of devotees and serving them. And Mahaprabhu points out in his teachings to Sanatana Goswami that you may serve devotees without even knowing it. Devotees go out and move in the world, and sometimes people will do some service unknowingly. This is called gyata. And then what do they get from that? Some sukriti. They get a little deposit in their bank account. And from that deposit, once you get enough, according to the Brihat Naradiya Purana, if you get enough of a deposit within your heart from those kinds of those events where you do some service, even unknowingly, then you have enough so that Shraddha is born. Shraddha means that you have some abiding faith in the devotees and then in Shastra. You start to think, oh, these devotees are good people, they're doing nice work. And also, you start to develop faith in the Shastra. You think, oh, this is something very special. And from there, one has a foothold in devotional service. Adao Shraddha. The very beginning is to have faith. To have this kind of faith which is defined. Shraddha Shabde Vishwas Kohe Sudra Dhanishoy Krishne Bhakti Koila Sarva Karma Krita Hoy. That you have a increasing awareness that just by doing bhakti, devotional service, that everything else is done. And that there's no risk in giving yourself just to bhakti, because it's the pinnacle of all kinds of activity. Whereas in the beginning of spiritual life, one may think that it's very risky to take time away from work. Like my friend who lives in Thailand, he had a business in cloth. And every Kartik he would come to Vrindavan. I would go with him sometimes. And he would leave his business behind for at least a whole month. And there in Thailand, people are very industrious. Many people, there was one woman from Vietnam who he was buying from her. She was a big wholesaler, and he would buy and sell retail cloth. And so when the time came every year for him to leave his work in the selling cloth, and he would tell this woman who was a business acquaintance, said, "I'm leaving. I'm going again to India." She say, his name was Greg, so she say, "Greg!" She was surprised. She said, "You stay, make money." She would yell at him. She said, "You're crazy." She said, "What are you talking? You stay, make money." And so there's this sense that I'm risking something by taking to devotional service. It's a big risk. But as one gains faith, one sees that actually the big risk is not doing devotional service even for a second, and sees that devotional service is all gain and no risk. Material life is all risk and no gain. When one has that perspective, then one performs one's needful duties just as one has to, just out of duty. Not because I have some optimism that by working hard in the material world I'm going to become better or happier, but because I have to maintain myself and my family, therefore I do the needful. But not too much and not too little. You do just enough. Don't become overheated and caught up in this. So devotees go on with their duties in life, but their full faith is invested in devotional service. And by that, gradually, Krishna gives more and more facility for us to do seva. So this is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's teaching, and Bhaktivinoda Thakur is presenting this, that if we can get the dust from the lotus feet of the devotees. And also, in his Govinda Bhajana Amrita, Narhari Sakar Thakur points out that we shouldn't discriminate big devotee, small devotee. Although I pointed out that Rupa Goswami says we should see various divisions of devotee, there's another overarching vision, which is to see that all devotees are important and worshipable. In fact, Rupa Goswami says that also. We should show respect in various ways to different devotees. And Narhari Sakar Thakur gives the example that on the Ganga, sometimes you see waves. Some of them are big and some of them are small. So, big, small, they're all Ganga. So they're all worshipable and purifying. So the devotees are purifying. Of course, one could say, what about a Vaishnava who's of bad character? Then the Shastra says, okay, you respect him from a distance. You're not obligated to spend intimate quality time with such a person. You don't even have to stay in the same state. But you should definitely appreciate them. And Krishna says this emphatically somewhere in the Bhagavad Gita. And one of you will tell me where he says emphatically in the Bhagavad Gita that even if a devotee seems to be worldly minded, if he's determined in devotional service, that person is considered to be a saint. Any idea? Go get a Gita. Grab a Gita. And you got a microphone over here? Try going to the 9th chapter. This is a famous verse. So next time somebody asks you this, you'll go right to it and you'll look like a genius. 9. $9:30 or 29? 9:30. 29 is Samaham Sarvabhuteshu, and 30 is Api Chet Sudaracharo. Is that correct? Okay, read it out loud. You do the Sanskrit and the translation, and you do the purport.
Api Chet Sudaracharo bhajate ma manyanya bhak shadur eva samantvaya samyag vyavashito hisa.
Okay, homework, you got to memorize the verse. Okay, go ahead. Do the word for word in the translation.
Api.
Even.
Chit.
Chet.
If. Sudarachara. One committing the most abominable actions.
One committing the most abominable actions.
Bhajate. Is engaged in devotional service. Mam. Unto me. Ananya bhak. Without deviation. Sadhu. A saint. Eva. Certainly. Sa. He. Mantavya. Is to be considered. Samyak. Completely. Vyavasitaha. Situated in determination. He. Certainly. Sa. He.
Translation.
Even if one commits the most abominable actions, if he is engaged in devotional service, he is to be considered saintly because he's improperly situated in his determination.
Good.
The word Sudarachara used in this verse is very significant, and we should understand it properly. When a living entity is conditioned, he has two kinds of activities. One is conditional and the other is constitutional. As for protecting the body or abiding by the rules of society and state, certainly there are different activities, even for the devotees, in connection with the conditional life, and such activities are called conditional.
Isn't that an important point to take in? Because we have constitutional and conditional. It's a nice to be able to categorize those and realize that we have both sides in our life. You can't just jump into your constitutional activities right away because we have conditioning. And it's really easy to give up, right? The condition is very easy to give up. Yes? True or false? It takes some time. And so you can't artificially just give up your conditioning. So you have to do both at the same time. Continue with your constitutional and your conditional activities. Okay, go ahead.
Besides these, the living entity who is fully conscious of his spiritual nature and is engaged in Krishna consciousness or the devotional service of the Lord has activities which are called transcendental. Such activities are performed in his constitutional position, and they are technically called devotional service. Now, in the conditioned state, sometimes devotional service and the conditional service in relation to the body will parallel one another. But then again, sometimes these activities become opposed to one another. As far as possible, a devotee is very cautious so that he does not do anything that could disrupt his wholesome condition. He knows that perfection in his activities depends on his progressive realization of Krishna consciousness.
Wait right there for a sec. Just consider the wholesome condition. There's a way that we become wholesome by following, for instance, the regulative principles of freedom and doing a regular devotional practice. Do you all feel wholesomeness when you do your practice and you're very strict, serious, and sincere? 2, 3 people. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Well, how does it make you feel? What is wholesome? What does it feel like to feel wholesome?
Maybe that I have a purpose in life.
Oh, puts a spring in your step, huh? Yeah, you feel like you have a purpose.
Yeah.
Oh, very good. I like that. And Vijay Damodar's got something.
Feel, have you accomplished something, or at least met the requirements, whatever that is? And I would say maybe if I don't do it, then there's a feeling that there's something lacking. So the days when I do get to do that, then I feel I've accomplished the mission. Whatever.
Okay, that's an important contrast to notice in one's life. In fact, it'll come as we practice. We'll see the difference between when we practice and we don't practice. So by contrast, we'll feel unwholesome if we don't fully complete our spiritual duty. Yeah.
We don't look for things outside.
If you feel wholesome,
yeah.
Okay, have that feeling like I have enough. I'm okay right here with my set of Bhagavatams, and my mind's not searching all over the world to get more. Right? Did you have one? Okay.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. I was thinking that whenever we do our sadhana, it feels like I'm contented and I don't need anything from outside.
Yeah,
and
that's interesting. I'm sorry.
And it's a very nice feeling. It's a very peaceful feeling, which we cannot get it by indulging in anything else, which other people are doing it.
Peaceful. Okay, good. And this word content, you feel content. And the word's spelled the same way, content and content. Because whatever our contents are, that determines how we feel. If we're keeping in all kinds of material desires that are racing around, going around in circles, chasing their own tails, that's our content, then we won't feel content. Yes?
When we do our sadhana properly, we feel inspired to give out. And
you want to give out. Oh, nice. That's like the Audarya of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. They have so much they want to give to others. And this is really the genesis of the Sankirtan movement. The devotees feel so happy and they have something to give. Just like if someone gives you $1 million, let's say you won it, won $1 million. That thing that keeps coming in the mail, it says you might already be a winner, then one day it's true. So you win 25 million. And then you get it. What do? You keep it secret, right? You don't tell anybody. Right? Don't tell anybody? You can't help it. You wouldn't be able to keep such a secret. You'd have to tell somebody. You go like, now don't tell anybody, but, there's a way when we get things, if we don't share them, what's the good? Where's the ananda if you don't tell somebody else your good fortune? You just keep it to yourself and, you don't tell anybody else. So ananda means you share whatever you have. And the more you give it out, this is the anandam buddhivardhanam, the more you give out what you have out of a feeling of gratitude, the more it increases. And other people, even sometimes we see, as we're practicing devotional service, when we give out what we have in devotional service, sometimes right when we need it, it comes back from the same person we gave it to. Someone might come back and say, "You okay? Let me help you." Yes. Oh, did you have one back there?
She already covered it.
Oh, Shiva's covered it.
No, the content.
Oh, she covered it.
Yeah,
Okay, good. All right. Okay, keep going.
Sometimes, however, it may be seen that a person in Krishna consciousness commits some act which may be taken as most abominable socially or politically. But such a
Have you ever seen such a thing? Someone seems to be properly situated in devotional service, and then they do something, what's it called here? Abominable? Could you look it up? Let's see what abominable means. Does anybody know where the word comes from? Let's see.
So abominable is an adjective which means causing moral revulsion.
Causing moral what?
Revulsion.
Revulsion?
Revulsion.
Causing moral revulsion.
Very bad or unpleasant.
Very, very bad. And unpleasant.
And the origin, Middle English, via Old French, coming from Latin, abominabilis, from abominary. The term was once widely believed to be from ab, which means away from, plus the Latin word homine, which means homo or human being. Thus, inhuman or beastly.
Inhuman or beastly, abominable, away from being civilized human being. So, someone might be practicing devotional service in a nice, steady way, and let's ask Tradas, he's been around longer than any of us. Have you ever seen anybody practicing devotional service, going along steadily, happily, seem to be doing quite well, and then all of a sudden they do something that's abominable? Has it ever been seen in the Krishna consciousness movement?
Many times.
Oh. Well, there you have it.
Many times, but that's the important point, is to not criticize them. That's the mistake we make, is that it's happened and it'll happen again, but not to criticize, not to find fault in them, but to appreciate that they're devotees and they're going on in devotional service, and not condemn them forever for some temporary slip in their practice.
Words of wisdom we can live by. When we're talking about them or others, but let's think, have I ever done anything that was beastly or abominable, wasn't civilized, apparently for no reason? Has that ever happened? I mean, you don't have to raise your hand or anything, but think about it. Or could it happen? It could. So here's the advice Krishna is giving if it does happen. Go ahead.
But such a temporary fall down does not disqualify him. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, it is stated that if a person falls down but is wholeheartedly engaged in the transcendental service of the Supreme Lord, the Lord, being situated in his heart, within his heart, purifies him and excuses him from that abomination. The material contamination is so strong that even a yogi fully engaged in the service of the Lord sometimes becomes ensnared.
Ensnared. Okay, there's a couple things here. One is that Krishna is situated within the heart of the person, and what does he do? Two things. Purifies and excuses. So if you go on, if you make a mistake, if you have a misstep, you go on with your devotional practice, then what will Krishna do? Purify and excuse you. No, it's not a impetus then to do something abominable. Just because Krishna will excuse me, that would complicate things even more. We talked about it early this morning, just after Mangalarti. That's the 7th offense. If I think, well, Krishna's there within the heart, he'll excuse and purify me, therefore I'll just keep doing abominable things. Then you're going to be in some serious trouble. Because, as Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says in his commentaries to the 6th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam regarding Ajamil, that out of the 10 offenses, the first offense, blaspheming devotees, and the 7th offense are particularly egregious. For those offenses, you have to suffer physically. The other offenses you can overcome if you go on chanting. But if you offend devotees or you sin on the strength of chanting, then there'll be some physical suffering that will be intense enough that's the kind of purification that you'll have to take. And the other point here that I just wanted to bring out was about being ensnared. Do you know what a snare is? Huh? It's a special kind of trap. It's for little animals, like when you catch rabbits and stuff like that. Not that I have any experience, but I have read up on it. And I heard Gopi Pranadana talking about snares. And snares, generally speaking, are little, and they catch like little insignificant creatures like rabbits and things like that. And so for us, see, if you stay long enough, you win stuff. Prizes for everybody if you just keep going. You get ensnared. Practically speaking, it's interesting because although I consider my activities in the material world to be so serious and important, for instance, businessmen sometimes, like, what was his name? The junk bond king, he used to live in LA, probably still does. Anyway, I won't bring up his name because he's probably watching. But in any case, MM. He used to wake up super early in the morning because the stock market, everyone is usually in finance, stock market kind of activity. They live in New York, but this is 3 hours earlier here. Because he would sacrifice every day to wake up so early just to be able to participate for many, many years, working so hard. I consider it so important. I can be caught so easily ensnared by Maya. It doesn't take that much. And I can be pulled away from my dreams of enjoying here in the material world. Okay, go ahead.
The material contamination is so strong that even a yogi fully engaged in the service of the Lord sometimes becomes ensnared. But Krishna consciousness is so strong that such an occasional fall down is at once rectified. Therefore, the process of devotional service is always a success. No one should deride a devotee for some accidental fall down from the ideal path. For, as explained in the next verse, such occasional fall downs will be stopped in due course as soon as a devotee is completely situated in Krishna consciousness. Therefore, a person who is situated in Krishna consciousness and is engaged with determination in the process of chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna,
Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
should be considered to be in the transcendental position, even if by chance or accident he is found to have fallen. The words sadhur eva, he is saintly, are very empathetic. They're a warning to
emphatic.
Emphatic.
Close.
They are a warning to the non-devotees that because of an accidental fall down, a devotee should not be derided. He should still be considered saintly even if he is accidentally fallen down. And the word manthavya is still more emphatic. If one does not follow this rule and derides a devotee for his accidental fall down, then one is disobeying the order of the Supreme Lord. The only qualification of a devotee is to be unflinchingly and exclusively engaged in devotional service. In the Narasimha Puran, the following statement is given.
Bhagavati chaharavananya cheta prishamalino pi virajite manusha nahi shasha kulusha chabisha kadachit timira parabhavatam upaiti chandra.
The meaning is that even if one fully engaged in the devotional service of the Lord is sometimes found engaged in abominable activities, these activities should be considered to be like the spots that resemble the mark of a rabbit on the moon. Such spots do not become an impediment to the diffusion of moonlight. Similarly, the accidental fall down of a devotee from the path of saintly character does not make him abominable. On the other hand, one should not misunderstand that a devotee in transcendental devotional service can act in all kinds of abominable ways. This verse only refers to an accident due to the strong power of material connections. Devotional service is more or less a declaration of war against the illusory energy. As long as one is not strong enough to fight the illusory energy, there may be accidental fall downs. But when one is strong enough, he is no longer subjected to such fall downs, as previously explained. No one should take advantage of this verse and commit nonsense and think that he is still a devotee. If he does not improve in his character by devotional service, then it is to be understood that he is not a high devotee.
Let's give a thanks to our Shastra advisory team right here. Come on. We keep our Shastra advisory team right here for any kind of consultations. And so now that's a verse that you'll never forget, huh? Where it is? Where is it? 9:30. Yeah, it's a really important verse. It comes up here and there throughout Prabhupada's teachings, throughout all the teachings of the Acharyas, because Krishna's telling a great appreciation for anybody engaged in devotional service. Even if they blow it, he'll rectify them and help them to come back. So one simply has to go on with the process of devotional service. Yes.
Maharaj, I was thinking about the power of the holy name, that if a person continues to chant even after doing an abominable act, he's still to be considered as a devotee. And in that light, I was thinking about Krishna, the equal opportunity purifier. He purifies both the good and the bad.
That's right. Yep, just like the sun. In all cases, whether it's a dirty place or a clean place, the sun cleans it up. And how did we get to there? Can you remember? Shuddha-bhakata. Okay, yeah, that's how. Shuddha-bhakata Charanarenu. And we were enjoying so much reading the Antya Leela. What do you think about continuing? Yes?
Maharaj, I have a question on something that we were reading about pure devotion, serving pure devotees.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So we were talking about serving pure devotees, that is the perfection of life. But you were also mentioning about aspiring to get their dust from their lotus feet. So my question is, when we are praying to Krishna or to our Guru, should we be asking for service always, or does it add variety to ask that, okay, please give me dust from your lotus feet so I can get purified and serve you better?
Yes, it adds variety. And those kinds of prayers are fine. And they're very, those you'll find similar kinds of requests in various prayers of the devotees, asking for special consideration and help from the Guru and from Krishna, like that. Asking for service. Yes?
So I have a question about the Charana Renu. Like, is it the dust of the lotus feet? Is it like metaphorical or is it like literal?
It's both. So there's three very powerful substances that Kaviraj Goswami mentions in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. And he says you shouldn't neglect these. So one is the dust of the lotus feet of the devotees. Another is the remnants of food left by devotees. And the third is water that's washed the lotus feet of the devotees. So he said these are three very powerful substances. And devotees beg, borrow, or steal to get these because they're very powerful. And it's also metaphorical. It's literal and it's metaphorical at the same time, because if one thinks that that's it, it's just a physical thing. For instance, someone who may be self-interested comes and tries to grab the feet of a devotee and take the dust, but they have no service attitude, and they even disturb the person as they're doing it. These kinds of things don't necessarily constitute what it means to get the dust. It means that you're serving. For instance, in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, there's a story of Kala Krishnadas. Kalidas, sorry. Kalidas had great faith in Vaishnavas. And he also had great faith in the remnants that they left. And by any means, he would get those remnants. And I mean, as an example, he would bring boga to devotees, and they say, please take this. And by the way, after you take it, can I have the remnants? And Vaishnavas would generally say, no, of course not. I'm too fallen. I wouldn't help you at all. So one day he came to the house of Jadu Thakur and his wife, and he brought some nice mangoes. He offered to Jadu Thakur, and he said, please, you take these, and I have two requests. One is that you give me the remnants after you eat these mangoes, and second is that you put your lotus feet on my head. And Jadu Thakur objected. He said, no, you're more advanced than me. I can't do that. And he refused. So Kalidas left the mangoes with Jadu Thakur, and he went out and hid next to the ditch where they would throw these kinds of things later. And Jadu Thakur's wife helped to prepare the mangoes. Jadu Thakur offered them in his mind. And then he and his wife ate those mangoes and left the skin and pits behind, wrapped them up in a leaf and threw them out in the ditch, and Kalidas came out and was enjoying every molecule there. And the reason he was because he had so much faith in Vaishnavas, and he was feeling a transference of the power of the Vaishnavas by taking their remnants. And his goal in life was to take the remnants of every Vaishnava in Bengal. That was his preoccupation in life. So one day when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was outside the Jagannath temple, and he was washing his lotus feet before walking in the temple, Kalidas, although this was prohibited, reached out his hand and grabbed some of the excess water, the charnamrit coming from Lord Chaitanya's feet. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is playing the role of a Vaishnav. Therefore, he didn't want people demonstratively taking the water from his feet, especially in front of the Lord's temple. But Kalidas extended his hand in front of it. Everyone could see what he was doing, even Mahaprabhu, when he took once, twice, thrice. And then Mahaprabhu turned to him and said, that's enough. And Kaviraj Goswami explains how externally he showed a little bit of anger, but internally he was very satisfied. And the reason that he granted Kalidas and not others that special charnamrit was because he knew how much faith Kalidas had in the Vaishnavas and taking their remnants. And so there's these three powerful things that are mentioned there in that section that one shouldn't neglect. But at the same time, one should be mindful. If you just charge in and dive for the feet of a Vaishnava and interrupt the whole assembly, and oftentimes people come and they ask for Ashirvad, give me some benediction, cure my liver disease or something like that. They're just asking for something that they're not interested in rendering service. They just want like some medical miracle or something like that. This is not what it means to take the dust, metaphorically. So, are you appreciating enjoying, I should say, the Antya Lila? You want to hear some more? Okay. By popular demand, we've noted. We're continuing the Antya Lila, chapter 13, pastimes with Jagadananda and Raghunatha-Bhatta. What can you remember about Raghunatha-Bhatta so far? We're going to take up at 120, I guess. Yes?
He was an extremely good devotee before he got married, so Chaitanya Mahaprabhu told him not to marry and to go learn Bhagavatam from a bona fide Vaishnava.
And what else? What other instruction did he give him?
I think he said to serve his parents as well.
Yeah, take care of his parents. And does that mean everyone should do that? Or is it a special case? No. Yeah, but I know, you were answering the question from the Chaitanya Charitamrita. So what was the answer from the Chaitanya Charitamrita? If your parents are devotees, then you take care.
Since Raghunatha-Bhatta Goswami, Bhattacharya's mother and father were devotees of Lord Chaitanya, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu told him to take care of them. But also in the purport, I think it said that if they weren't, if Raghunath Bhattacharya's mother and father weren't devotees of Lord Chaitanya, he wouldn't have told him to take care of his.
Wouldn't have given his main service. Okay, so that means you're going to be taking care of your parents, right? Okay, good. As previously, Raghunath remained continuously with Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu for 8 months. Then the Lord gave him the following order. My dear Raghunath, on my order, go to Vrindavan and live there under the care of Rupa and Sanatana Goswami. He's right and I'm wrong. 130. Thus Raghunatha-Bhatta surrendered, number 130, fully at the lotus feet of Lord Govinda. Thus Raghunatha-Bhatta, 130, surrendered fully at the lotus feet of Lord Govinda, and those lotus feet became his life and soul. 123? Okay, 123. At a festival, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had been... Almost there. Good. At a festival, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had been given some unspiced betel and a garland of tulsi leaves, 14 cubits long. The garland had been worn by Lord Jagannath. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave the garland and betel or betel? If you don't know, nobody knows. Come on. Betel? Betel nuts? Like the Beatles, the music group? Okay. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave the garland and betel to Raghunatha-Bhatta, who accepted them as a worshipable deity and preserved them very carefully. Taking permission from Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Raghunatha-Bhatta then departed for Vrindavan. Where's another case in the Chaitanya Charitamrita that somebody got something that was a worshipable article and put it on the altar and worshipped it as good as Krishna or Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Gopal Bhatta Goswami? What was that? Better give him a microphone. Or maybe not, he doesn't look so sure. Well, I was thinking of Maharaj Prataparudra because he had asked to come see Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, but first Mahaprabhu gave him an outward garment. And he took that to his home and he put it on his altar and he worshipped it as good as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And there is the verse is quoted, Aradhananam sarvesham Vishnu aradhanam param tasmat paratanam devi tadiyanam samajara. And this verse says that of all types of worship, worship of Lord Vishnu is the best. Do you all agree? Yes. Say yes. Yes. Okay. But better than worship of Lord Vishnu is the tadiya of Lord Vishnu. Those things that are dear to Lord Vishnu, that are in relationship with him. Like what? His devotees. Ganga. Tulsi. And those things that are related to Krishna or the devotee, they're worshipable. They're worshipable. Aradhananam sarvesham Vishnu aradhanam param tasmat paratanam devi tadiyanam. The tidiya.
So, does it include his dresses, his, for example, his jewelry, his,
Well, before I answer this, is this a loaded question? Is there a follow-up after I give my answer? Like, you guys aren't taking care of the dresses well enough in the pujari room? Yeah, it includes especially these kinds of things. So if you, for instance, if after the deity wears a particular outfit or something like that for some time, then oftentimes those pieces of the outfit are distributed and people keep them like that. Or sometimes, like I have one of Prabhupada's dhotis and keep it in a box and I worship it on my altar because it was worn by Prabhupada. So it's worshipable as tadiya. Did I answer your question? Here comes the follow-up.
That was my question. No,
okay.
There is no follow-up question. That
All
was
right.
my understanding. I was just confirming it with you.
Yes, that's it. Yeah, the paraphernalia. It's called tadiya. Yes?
Sorry. So Maharaj, can we, if I get...
We give $100 for each controversial question. But I have to see if I have anything on me. Okay, go ahead.
So can, if we get the garland from the deity here, that will be tadiya, right? Was used? Or
That's right. And the Prabhupada explains, there's Mahaprasadam and there's Mahaprasadam. So there's different strengths. So if you get prasadam from the deity, it's called Mahaprasadam. But say if you got Mahaprasadam and then you fed some advanced Vaishnava, that Mahaprasadam, and then the advanced Vaishnava leaves remnants of the Mahaprasadam, then it becomes Mahaprasadam. That's how it's considered.
So can we take a garland from the temple and put it on the deity in the home?
No,
we can't.
This is prohibited in the Hari Bhakti Vilas. Things that are already offered, you can't offer again.
Offer them again.
Yeah, can't. Okay, so where are we? Just to be sure. 125. Taking permission from Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Raghunatha-Bhatta then departed for Vrindavan. When he arrived there, he put himself under the care of Rupa and Sanatan Goswami. When reciting Srimad Bhagavatam in the company of Rupa and Sanatan, Raghunatha-Bhatta would be overwhelmed with ecstatic love for Krishna. By the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he experienced the symptoms of ecstatic love, tears, trembling, and faltering of the voice. His eyes filled with tears, and his throat became choked, and thus he could not recite Srimad Bhagavatam. His voice was as sweet as a cuckoo's, and he would recite each verse of Srimad Bhagavatam in 3 or 4 tunes. Thus, his recitations were very sweet to hear. When he recited or heard about the beauty and sweetness of Krishna, he would be overwhelmed with ecstatic love and become oblivious to everything. Thus, Raghunatha-Bhatta surrendered fully at the lotus feet of Lord Govinda, and those lotus feet became his life and soul. Subsequently, Raghunatha ordered his disciples to construct a temple for Govinda. He prepared various ornaments for Govinda, including a flute and shark-shaped earrings. Raghunatha-Bhatta would neither hear nor speak about anything of the material world. He would simply discuss Krishna and worship the Lord day and night. He would not listen to blasphemy of a Vaishnava, nor would he listen to talk of a Vaishnava's misbehavior. He knew only that everyone was engaged in Krishna's service. He didn't understand anything else. Purport: Raghunatha-Bhatta never did anything harmful to a Vaishnava. In other words, he was never inattentive to the service of the Lord, nor did he ever violate the rules and regulations of a pure Vaishnava. It is a duty of a Vaishnava Acharya to prevent his disciples and followers from violating the principles of Vaishnava behavior. He should always advise them to strictly follow the regulative principles, which will protect them from falling down. Although a Vaishnava preacher may sometimes criticize others, Raghunatha-Bhatta avoided this. Even if another Vaishnava was actually at fault, Raghunatha-Bhatta would not criticize him. He saw only that everyone was engaged in Krishna's service. That is the position of a Mahabhagavata. Actually, even if one is serving Maya, in a higher sense, he is also a servant of Krishna. Because Maya is the servant of Krishna. Anyone serving Maya serves Krishna indirectly. Therefore it is said, Keha moni keha na mani shab tar dosh. Je na mani tar hoy she pape nash. Some accept him, whereas others do not. Yet everyone is his servant. One who does not accept him, however, will be ruined by his sinful activities. Madhava, do you have any comments on this purport? Okay. Yes.
Sounds
please.
like Jayananda Prabhu.
Yes. Can you say more?
And Jayananda Prabhu had the same quality. Same quality that if anyone was criticizing a devotee, even if it was true externally, then he would leave the association. He would go away. He wouldn't listen to it. He wouldn't indulge in it. And always saw the spark of devotion in everyone. Even people just walking by on the street, he would engage them in devotional service. And would never tolerate criticism of other devotees. He would always see something good about every devotee. So he had the same quality. It's described there as Mahabhagavad.
So should we practice that? Could you tell us how to?
Yeah, it's. I have to be careful because it doesn't mean you shouldn't discriminate. It doesn't mean that then therefore, if some devotee is at fault and he has done something bad, that you shouldn't criticize him. But that doesn't necessarily mean that you should keep your discriminative power to not follow them, to not accept them as your guide or spiritual guide or example. But that doesn't. But you can humbly stay away and not criticize them. But at the same time discriminate who to follow, who not to follow.
Thank you. Prabhupada, when the devotees first went to India, that is the Western devotees, and they were getting a lot of inquiries from people, like, what do you think of this Swami, what do you think of that Swami? And the devotees asked Prabhupada how to deal with that. And Prabhupada said, assail the philosophy and not the person who's propounding it. So he said to ask them, I don't know such and such, Swami, what is his philosophy? And then you talk about the philosophy, but don't use ad hominem criticisms. Can you look up the word, please? We'll do this one on Sunday. Ad hominem. You know it? Okay, you better write it down. Ad hominem. Ad hominem. Hominin. You know it? You know it? You got it? Go. He's got something. Even before the results are coming out of our... What? A-D? Hom, like H-O-M? Like Homo sapien? You got it? Okay. Well, you were first, and you got fire in your eyes, so you go ahead.
It's the logical fallacy in an argument when instead of addressing the argument of the other person, you start addressing the person, you start insulting the person.
That's very nice. Not that somebody would do that, but the way you put it, it's a logical fallacy. That it's actually a fallacy. You're talking about a particular logical point, but instead of dealing with the point, then you start criticizing the person's personal qualities, right? And you got it? Who's got it from the dictionary? Let's hear. Huh? You got it? Let's hear.
So ad hominem, I got it from the Wikipedia.
Spell it.
A-D, it's two words.
Two words.
It's two words. A-D, H-O-M-I.
H-O-M-I.
N-E-M.
Hominen.
Yeah, hominem.
N-E-N. Hominen.
Nem. Yeah.
Ad hominem.
Yeah.
Everyone say it.
Ad hominem.
Did I say it? Hominem?
Yes.
M at the end.
Yeah.
Ad hominem. It's a logical fallacy, attacking the person rather than the philosophy that you're discussing, right? Yeah. And what's the definition?
So it says ad hominem is the Latin for to the man or to the person. It's the short form for argumentum ad hominem. It's a fallacious argumentative strategy whereby an argument is rebutted by attacking the character, motive, or other attribute of the person making the argument, or persons associated with the argument, rather than attacking the substance of the argument itself.
So that's one thing Prabhupada pointed out that we should be careful about as preachers. Deals directly with the particular philosophy that's if you find a fallacy in the person's logic, then you should deal with that directly, shastra to shastra, and not take it to a personal level. And where does it come from? You got more over here?
It said Latin.
Okay, give it to our Shastri advisory team.
So it comes from Latin. Ad hominem literally means to the person.
Anything else you can tell us? Any history there?
Should I read this one? Yeah. Okay. Ad hominem, Latin for to the person, short for argumentum ad hominem, is a fallacious argumentative strategy whereby an argument is rebutted by attacking the character, motive, or other attribute of the person making the argument, rather than attacking.
That's really important. The character or motive. In nonviolent speech, you'll notice that the technique is to not ascribe any intention to the person's doing a particular thing. So you would start off by saying, I know you didn't intend to do this, but this is what happened when you did it and how it made me feel. Then you describe it from there. It's so volatile when you ascribe an intention to somebody, because it's the essence of what really matters ultimately, what somebody's intention was. And how did we get there? Because of Raghunatha-Das Goswami, and because we're hearing about Jayananda from Tredas Prabhu, who was very close with him. And so this is something that Prabhupada mentions in his purport here, that should be taught, should be inculcated. He says, spiritual teachers should be passing this kind of mood on to the followers and the students, is to be very careful about maintaining the etiquette in all circumstances. Even if you're a preacher, it doesn't give you license just to tear people up. You have to be very careful. And you'll find that those who are careful about that are much more successful in their outreach anyway. People respect them, and they're much more open to hearing what they have to say. Yes, Vijay Damodar.
So Maharaj, I had a question.
Okay.
Once you do encounter this situation, and externally you can do what you just mentioned, saying, get out of that, or just don't attack the person, etc. But in the mind, you still remember that. And then the next time you see that person, the thought comes back saying, that's the person who did that. How do you get out of that situation? Is this something that just neophytes encounter, it will go away eventually?
No, that's why you shouldn't hear about a blasphemy of devotees either, because it does diminish your capacity to appreciate them. And so that's why, we're careful. And so you have to have a sixth sense when it's coming on. Like you can kind of feel when people are warming up to getting their you have to have a blasphemy radar.
You're right, I did try that. But the only thing is the crucial words do come by the time saying, did you hear about this, who did that? And I said, oh, stop. But by the time the words already made it through. How do you get
Yeah, well, if you don't intentionally hear it, then over time, it'll diminish, but it does have an effect, what people say about people. So you have to just be a little cautious. And the main thing is, too, if you indulge in it, that's an offense. If you incidentally hear something, people discussing in a certain way, it may not be that damaging, ultimately.
Thanks.
Okay.
Thank you.
So, 134 says, when Raghunatha-Bhatta was absorbed in remembrance of Lord Krishna, he would take the tulsi garland and the prasadam of Lord Jagannath given to him by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, bind them together and wear them on his neck. Thus I have described the powerful mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, by which Raghunatha-Bhatta Goswami remained constantly overwhelmed with ecstatic love for Krishna. In this chapter I have spoken about three topics: Jagannananda Pandit's visit to Vrindavan, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's listening to the song of the Deva Dasi at the temple of Jagannath, and how Raghunatha-Bhatta Goswami achieved ecstatic love of Krishna by the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Gaura Hari, bestows ecstatic love for Krishna upon anyone who hears all these topics, faith and love. Shri Rup Raghunath Pade Jar Ash, Chaitanya Charitamrita Kahi Krishna Dosh. Praying at the lotus feet of Shri Rupa and Shri Raghunath, always desiring their mercy, I, Krishnas, narrate Shri Chaitanya Charitamrita following their footsteps. Thus, Bhaktivedanta purports of Shri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Antya Lila, 13th chapter, describing Jagannananda Pandit's visit to Vrindavan, the Lord's hearing the song of the Deva Dasi, and Raghunatha-Bhatta Goswami's achieving love for Krishna. Okay, last slide. Last slide. So, if there was a line from this song that you remembered, which one would it be? And if someone wakes you up in the morning and says, hey, wake up, Jeev Jaga, what do you say? As soon as you wake Okay, try it out. This is a very important song. And there's a purport that parallels this, Chaitanya Charitamrita, in which he talks about how these associates of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu were eternally liberated souls. And he goes on to say that it's not just those who joined Chaitanya Mahaprabhu from the spiritual world at the time that he was present performing his Leela. It's a day. Devotees who are engaged in Sankirtan. Very fantastically, we hear that anyone who jumps into this Sankirtan movement and gives their entire life, Prabhupada writes, they become a Nitya Siddha, because it's a liberated activity. And this is as one engages fully in the service of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu by the Sankirtan movement, just as the metaphor is given here, if you dive into that ocean, then you'll come out on the shore of Radha Krishna's pastimes. The deeper you go within Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastimes, the more you'll find Vrindavan. The more you dive into Radha and Krishna's pastimes, and the deeper you go, the more you'll find Lord Chaitanya. Because, as we heard earlier, Anarpita charim chirat karuna yavatirna kalao samarpayutum unutojvalarasam sobi shriyam hari purata sundara duti kadipita. What is the last line? No, start over. Anarpita charim chirat karuna yavatirna kalao samarpayutum unutojvalarasam sobi bhakti shriyam hari purata sundara duti kadamba sandipitaha. What's up? Anarpita charim Anarpita charim chirat karuna yavatirna kalau samarpayutum unuto jvalarasam subhakti shriyam hari purata sundara duti kadamba sandipitaha sadaraya kandu Sri Sacinandana. And this verse was written by Svarupa-Damodara. Correct? As it says there. In the translation, Lord, may that Lord who is known as the son of Srimati, too many hours. Srimati Sachi Devi be transcendently situated in the innermost chambers of your heart, resplendent with the radiance of molten gold. He's appeared in the age of Kali by his causeless mercy to bestow what no incarnation for the most elevated mellow of devotional service, the mellow of conjugal love. And then Radha Krishna Pranaya Vikriti Hladini Shakti Rasmat Ekatmana Vapi Bhuvi Pura Deha Bedam Katau Tau Chaitanyakyam Prakatamaduna Tadvayam Chaikyamaptam Raduti Subalitam Naumi Krishna Sarupam. This is the verse that proves what I just said. The loving affairs of Sri Radha and Krishna are transcendental manifestations of the Lord's internal pleasure-giving potency. Although Radha and Krishna are one in their identity, they separated themselves eternally. Now these two transcendental identities have again united in Sri Krishna Chaitanya. I bow down to him who has manifested himself with the sentiment and complexion of Srimati Radharani, although he is Krishna himself. So this is proves the idea about Radha, going deeply within the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Then you'll find Radha. In fact, this is the gateway to understanding Vrindavan and Radha Krishna. And in a practical sense, the Goswamis of Vrindavan, who are Lord Chaitanya's direct disciples, give the outline, not just the outline, but the details of how one can self in order to enter into the service of Lord Gauranga Mahaprabhu properly. And by following the Goswamis strictly, then one comes to the perfection of life, which is spontaneous loving service to Radha and Krishna of Vrindavan. Gaur Premanande Haribo. Nitai Gaura Haribo, 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 Nitai Gaura Haribo, Nitai Gaura Haribo, 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 Nitai Gaura Haribo. Vanchakalpataruscha Kripasanabheva Patitanam Pavanibhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Nantakoti Vaishnavinikija. These are nice. Yeah, why? You think it's too big? Nachari Armarman, Nachari Armarman, Nachari Armarman, Nachari Armarman, hey, Nachari Armarman, Nachari Armarman, Nachari Armarman, Nachari Armarman.